the Royals, in their view from the Kansas City Royals side, about not taking advantage of the way the Red Sox were playing, which was not great, and the way the Guardians were playing, which was not great. They didn't take advantage of that because they had a 2.5-game lead, 10, 11 days before that, and they had a 2.5-game lead at that point. But really the conversation was about how the Red Sox did not take advantage of what the Royals were doing while they were trailing. Well, while the schedule is what it is right now for Kansas City, they have taken advantage of teams playing tougher opponents. Twins playing in San Diego against the Padres. That's a good team, the Padres. The Red Sox going up against the Orioles and now the Houston Astros on the road, having to face those teams. Cleveland getting the day off, but over the weekend, you have the Royals taking care of the Reds, which, by the way, won 4 games in a row before the Royals faced off against them and won 3 in a row. Yep. And then they went to Toronto and won last night. So the Reds are 5-3 in their last 8 games. Those 3 losses happen to be a sweep to the Kansas City Royals, so I'm not going to dismiss that 3-game sweep to the Royals because the Reds are under 500.
Sure.
Because, again, if the Reds would have taken 2 of 3 from the Royals, they would have been 500. And we'd have been, well, see, there he goes, another 500 team that they can't beat. So the Reds are now 500, and the Royals go 1-2 against them. Just put that up on the record of the Royals only, being a product of the White Sox. But they took care of business by sweeping them, so they aren't a 500 team. So it goes into the category of what they do against sub-500 teams. And you take care of business against the bad teams. You do what you're supposed to do. They took game 1. I don't want to be greedy and say sweep the Angels because they have an all-star on the mound today. The Royals have been playing awesome baseball, but it is part of taking advantage of these games that you have before the schedule gets crazy. Before you finish the season with almost every team that you play is going to be either in or chasing a playoff spot. That's going to be difficult. And that's why banking these wins and banking the 4.5-game lead, picking up 2 games on the Red Sox over the last 4 days, catching the Twins in the division over the last 4 days. Like, those things are crucial because you'll have games against Minnesota, you'll have games against Cleveland, but you have given yourself a little bit of wiggle room to still make the playoffs. Now the Royals are up to like 80%.
79.1. 79.1.
The Royals are up to 79% to make the postseason now. Sunday sound off, I gave him a 66.6, repeating, of course, percentage chance of making the postseason. I said, if the season is played 100 times from, Monday morning moving forward, I think the Royals would make the postseason 2 out of 3 times. I would certainly up that percentage by now, having a 4.5-game lead. The next, didn't think the next 2 nights they would go, win those games and be up 4.5 and the Twins losing. So it's great what they have done because June 25th doesn't seem like it's that long ago. Maybe it does. It's almost a couple of months. But on June 25th, I was looking at the schedule for the Royals and going back through in Baseball Reference what they had done this year and when sort of felt like it went from the Royals and the Guardians to then the conversation we had was maybe we don't care about what the Guardians are doing. We focus on the wild card.
Sure.
Because it looks like it's out of reach. The Royals on June 25th were 43-38. They had fallen to 5 games over 500. After they were at their peak of 15 games over 500, which, by the way, they have now matched again. 43-38. You want to take a guess as to how many games out they were from the Guardians at that point? They were 5 games over 500 still.
Was it 8.5, 7.5?
What's your guess?
I'll say 7.5.
7.5. I don't know if Dylan is doing stuff back there, so I don't know if I want to throw it to Dylan to have him guess.
Sure.
So I'll just say. Okay, great. So take a gander. 43-38, or guess 43-38, the Royals' record on June 25th, what they were in terms of games back of the Guardians for first place in the Central.
Because the Guardians, I thought, were hot early, right? They were.
Sterling guessed 7.5 games out.
I was going to do 9.5.
Pretty damn close, Dylan. On June 25th, the Royals lost to the Miami Marlins 2-1. falling to just 5 games over 500 from where they were at their peak of 15 games over 500, and they were at that point 10 games out of first place behind the Guardians.
Wow.
Nice.
They're 27-17 since then. They're 18-10 since the All-Star break, which is the best record in baseball, by the way. The Royals, since the All-Star break, have the best record in baseball. They have exactly 30 more wins today than they did last year on August 20th. They were 40-85 last year through 125 games.
Somehow still better. 10 games better than the White Sox.
Yeah, 70-55 this year. Their over-under was 72.5. They are 3 games away from cashing tickets for those of us that had the Royals over, which they cashed those tickets immediately because they want you to put the money back in. Here's your money. Please bet again.
Yeah, bet on them again.
Give us that money back, please. That's great. They are 3 games away from cashing the over tickets at 73 wins. They have won 20 straight games when allowing 4 runs or fewer. As much as we've talked about the offense, and I'm losing these 2-1 games and 3-2 games, they aren't. They've won 20 straight games if their pitching staff allows 4 runs or fewer. They are 66-16 on the season when they do that. The most wins in baseball.
Wow.
With a team that allows 4 runs or fewer. That's 66. The formula we're seeing from the Royals over these last 5 games, which is what we talked about when they were struggling, when they lost 2 of 3 to the Red Sox, when they split with the Cardinals, they lost 2 of 3 to Minnesota. I mean, the opposing runs, Boston, 9-6-4, the Royals won. St. Louis, 8, they lost. St. Louis, 3, they won. Minnesota, 8-13, they lost. And since then, 1-1-1-1-3. The reason the Red Sox and the Twins series were so bothersome was because of how they were playing baseball.
Yeah.
They were making dumb errors. It felt like the moment was too big, right? We said that. Like, it seems like the moment is too big right now. And maybe it's a product of Reagan's going to the mound on August 14th and getting that win to avoid the sweep against Minnesota, so you only dropped 1 game against them. Maybe it's a product of you played the Reds. Okay, even if we want to just dismiss that, which I don't want to, but still. And then the Angels, right? I mean, come on. Okay, that's fine if you want to be looking at the glass half-empty side of it. They're playing better baseball. They're playing more clean baseball. The bullpen is doing what they need to do. The starting staff looks like the starting staff earlier in the year. Now, Brady Singer is going to have to go to the mound his next 3 outings. He looked great against Cincinnati yesterday.
Yep.
But his next 3 outings for Brady Singer, Philadelphia, Cleveland. So
think of the left-handed batters in those lineups because that's where he struggles as lefty. So the Bryce Harpers,
Kyle Schwarber leading off.
Schwarber.
I mean, first batter of the game against the Phillies is going to be Kyle Schwarber.
Yeah.
I mean, you got that guy. You got Jose Ramirez in Cleveland. You've got 3 awesome teams that Brady Singer is going to be pitching against. What does he look like? Seth Lugo. Did he turn the corner back to being closer to the Seth Lugo earlier in the year at the All-Star game, rather than what he was over a 6 or 7 game stretch when it was like, all right, is his arm wearing down? Is he become lesser of a pitcher? Is this the regression to the mean, that the water is finding its level, that this is closer to what Seth Lugo should be, and he was way out over his skis and out kicking his coverage earlier in the season? This is a guy that should not be looking like this. Well, then he goes and has the outing he did last night against the Angels. And, Joe Adell put one in the gap. And, he hung one there to a really good hitter, almost out of the inning. It happens.
I wouldn't say a really good hitter.
A power hitter. A guy who at times – a guy who's 5 tools. I mean, when he was coming out of high school, it was like, he's a, top 10 pick, I think?
Oh, great. One of the best prospects we had seen in a while.
Yeah, I mean, 5-tool guy, power, average, speed, defense, arm. Like, he was he was – I think he was like the number 8 or 9 pick. I could be wrong. Maybe he was in the teens. But I just remember him being a stud because, I happened to be covering him at the time because he grew up in Louisville. So I know that this was a guy that was like, all right, man, this is one of the best baseball players we've ever seen around here.
10th overall.
10th overall. So you know he's got the pedigree, right? And Lugo left one out there, and he puts it in the gap. He's a good player. They're on scholarship too, right, as they say. And you didn't need to use Urseg last night because Quatrero said after the game Urseg was not pitching last night.
Yeah.
Schreiber comes off the DL, IL, whatever. And hearing from Joel Goldberg in the game last night about Schreiber talking about how much pain he was in constantly is at least a element of optimism that he can look closer to what he's looked like in the past, and maybe it was some injury this year that he just needed to go on the IL, just needed to simply take some time off to get healthy, and telling Joel Goldberg, now I'm walking around like, wow, I haven't felt like this in a long time.
Sure.
Well, if they get that Schreiber, then you feel pretty good about what the back end of the bullpen can look like if and when they get Hunter Harvey back, and if he looks closer to what he has looked like, and maybe he was dealing with the back tightness, and that's why he was struggling with the Royals. They've won 5 games in a row. They are 6-2 in the last 8 games, 7-3 in the last 10. And we aren't talking about the bullpen blowing a game except for that St. Louis game.
Sure.
But since then, the Royals bullpen has essentially taken care of business when they've been in the game. They lost 13-3, right? You get shelled, you get hit around, you got to wear it, right? You're going to wear it. But when the Royals have had to protect a lead, and maybe it's all Lucas Urseg, but even if it is, it's a guy they didn't have before when they built that 15-game over 500 stretch.
Sure.
And now they do have a guy, because they were losing games then. They were blowing games then at the end. They were having some blown saves. They were having some bullpen guys that Quatrero was trying to work through to figure out who he can trust at that time, because this guy was hot and this guy was struggling. Okay, this guy was good and this guy was struggling. Okay, you can rely on Angel Zerpa. Okay, now you can't rely on Angel Zerpa. All right, Schreiber's pretty good. Schreiber's no longer good. All right, Stratton is bad. Stratton's now good. Hey, Nick Anderson, let's throw him in there. See what you have with him. All right, he's fine. Now he's not. MacArthur, oh my goodness, he's really good. He's not walking anybody. Now he's walking the world. Like, you were trying to figure things out while they were winning and they were still blowing games. You at least have one guy in your bullpen that you feel like it's 4-1 in the 7th.
Yeah.
This is the game. Let's go get him. They win that one. I have no idea what they do on Sunday when they're up 4-1 and you got to pull that guy long in the 7th inning.
Yeah.
There's one out, bases loaded. Who do they bring in, and does he get the job done against Ellie and whoever was after Ellie De La Cruz?
Sure.
Do they get the job done? I doubt it. Like, I don't know that you would have confidence. Ursay came in, and I had total confidence he was going to get the job done. That might be one more win than they have right now because of him specifically in that situation of what they didn't have before, which is where the extra confidence comes in of them playing the rest of the way. Cleaner baseball defensively, they've got to do that. The pitching staff looking closer to this group in the first couple of months of the season rather than the little bit of a lull, and the offense doing enough, which is what the formula's been in these last 5 games.
Well, what I think is interesting, and I don't want to give the bullpen too much credit here because I don't want to all of a sudden just every week almost go back and forth. I think it went from one of the worst bullpens in baseball to maybe a slightly below average bullpen in baseball, all because of Ursig.
Yeah.
Ursig has danced in and out of trouble that other guys have put the Royals bullpen into. Sam Long, I've been high on him, but he's not been great. Now, sometimes it's weak contact, but weak contact still counts as hits.
And you know who didn't make weak contact? The Reds in the 7th inning when Ursay came in.
And then Ursig came
They
in.
didn't make any contact.
And got out of it, right?
Strikeouts.
And so he's almost being the savior for the bullpen. And I think Q's done a great job saying, hey, we're not going to keep him for the 9th. If we need him now because the bases are juiced, we only got 1 out or 2 outs, we need to call him in now for a 4-out save. They'll do it. And I think last night was heartening, and Bubic and Schreiber were able to go those 2 innings. Now, again, we're not asking a lot. We're asking to get 2 innings. They gave up 1 run still. Bubic looked good,
Yeah.
but he still gave up a bomb, right? So we're not asking for perfection. we're asking to be average. That's all we're asking the bullpen to be because Ursig is elite back there. I still think that maybe the most underrated signing or trade deadline move obviously was not just Ursig, but Paul DeJong, who we've seen be on an absolute tear since he got to Kansas City.
I love being wrong about my thoughts on that trade.
I love being right on that one because
cool.
it made me go 1-0 against you right here on that one.
But 0-1 on the Brady Singer thing, but that's fine.
It's better than Marsh. I'm 2-0 against you, Jason. Kick rocks, pal. You're kicking rocks and pounding sand.
You don't get credit for Brady Singer.
I get credit for Singer and DeJong.
You said you would start Singer in a playoff game.
No, I said I'd start him over Alec Marsh.
And I'd start Alec Marsh over
Big
Singer.
difference.
Because I know what Singer's going to look like against a good team. Anyway, go ahead.
Big difference, guy.
You may not get a loss on that, but I'm not giving you a win.
1.5.
1-1.
It's a draw. Paul DeJong, though, has been what the Royals needed, especially lower in the lineup. Obviously the power, 21 home runs.
Yeah.
The average for the Royals right now has been great. He's taken more walks than he has in his previous stops. Now, part of that is playing for a good team. Playing with some guys, is it just is it the hitting coach, or is it just a better system when you get out of the White Sox and that absolute debacle of a team right now? But even this, he wasn't doing with the Cardinals. I mean, Cardinals fans have been laughing, going, he has as many home runs as the leading home run hitter on the Cardinals this year. And he is a Royals bench bat.
Yeah.
Now, how consistent will he be? I don't know, but Q was putting him in a situation to succeed. I always go back to this. I know people laugh, but it's almost like Ryan O'Hearn. Ryan O'Hearn was not put in a situation to flourish here in Kansas City. He went to Baltimore, and they used him sparingly, 3 days, 4 days a week, and it worked. They put him in a spot to succeed. The Royals at times have done that with MJ Melendez, and what happens when they do that?
Yep.
It works. When they do it with Paul DeJong, it works. They're not everyday players, but when you put them in matchups that they can have success against, well, then the overall numbers will look better. It's not a seven-day a week guy. It's a 3 day a week guy, and it's working.
No, it's a great point about Paul DeJong because he's not viewed for the Royals as you're the everyday third baseman. You're the everyday third baseman, and you're the five hitter, and you're hitting behind Salvi. So we need to play third base every day and be a consistent bat in the lineup. No, we need you to play third base every couple of days, be a bat off the bench, start every couple of days, offer some power, offer a spot in the lineup. Also, he made a hell of a play on a rocket over at third base last night.
Yeah, he did.
You know, I mean, they were showing, I was watching this morning the MLB Network's interview that they did with Lugo, which, you know, we have and we'll play it on the other side of the break. But MLB Network did the interview with Lugo, and they had some highlights in the background. And it was just a hot shot to third, and the play was made and the throw over. And I had forgotten that DeJong was playing third. And I just thought Garcia, right? And then they showed a close-up of DeJong after the throw, and I'm like, oh, that's right, that was DeJong that made that play, right? I mean, you know, so he has been so much better than I thought he would be for this team. I was concerned about, my concerns were the splits, in that a lot of his power was coming in stadiums that were more optimal for right-handed power hitters, where Kauffman is not necessarily that. It's a good hitter's park, but not necessarily a home run hitter's park. So I was concerned about that. I was concerned about not walking. He has walked on this team. Yeah. I mean, those were the things with strikeouts, not taking a walk, and the power numbers may be inflated because of stadium-induced sort of power, but also the reverse splits and how much I know that Q is obsessed with lefty-righty, that if Paul DeJong has a reverse split to where he's better against righties than he is against lefties, was Q going to bring him in only to bat against lefties? Those were my concerns about Paul DeJong, is how he was being utilized and what the expectations were from him. But he has been really good and a fantastic acquisition for J.J. Piccolo, because there are at least, I don't know, at least one, maybe 2 or 3 wins that the Royals have because of the acquisitions from J.J. Piccolo, from Urseg, DeJong, and Lorenzen.
Who's been solid. Lorenzen's been solid.
Lorenzen's been solid, but Urseg coming in and getting the Royals out of jams in the late innings. DeJong coming up with power. I mean, the 2-run shot that he hit last night, all of a sudden it's a 1-0 game. It's a 3-0 game.
Yeah.
Although we have to have video somewhere of him hitting the ball out of the ballpark. Like, listen, guys, there are things that people probably say to us, like, hey, how can you do this, but then you don't offer that? Ryan and Rex being so taken aback that the ball left the stadium in the foul ball, but us not being able to see it.
Yeah.
Was there not? Did a camera not follow the foul ball? Like we see fans make plays on foul balls all the time. Like they follow the foul ball just in case. I want to see that ball go over the lights.
Yes.
In the stand behind the third base. I want to see the ball go over the lights and land on the roof thing and then bounce into the parking lot. I want to see that because hearing Ryan talk about it and then them describing what was going on in the Royals dugout, which I also wanted to see, them talk about it and look at it and look around and be discussed. All the while DeYoung's got to focus on the pitcher and his next pitch while the dugout's sort of going crazy and that. Did you see that? And he can't even think about where that ball went because he has no idea. He's not thinking about it. I don't know if somebody made a great play, whatever. He hits one out of the ballpark, and then he hits one over the fencing they put up in left field, which gives you an automatic run. Unless there's somebody on base, they gave him 2 runs for that.
I loved Hudler right before the pitch that he hit the home run on.
Uh-huh.
He goes, you cannot leave this middle. And then, of course, the pitch is middle. And he hits a 2-run shot, and just immediately he knew.
What was he doing?
As the ball is getting thrown. Oh!
Dylan, I know you had that in the open, but do you have that clip of where Rex was like, what is he doing? Why?
Give me 1 second. I did clip it off I did take it off the front end there, so I'm going to have to replace it, so give me 1 second.
No, you're good, man. But it's a great point. So Rex is really good, by the way.
Yeah.
He's really good. And I know when he first got into town, there was an adjustment period to him.
Sure.
And I loved the nickname of P90 Rex.
Oh, it's
which
so good.
Was a fantastic nickname early on when he was here because it was so intense,
Yeah.
But we've gotten so used to him, his goofy nature, having fun with, whether it be – that's a crayon, Rex. Oh, is it? I thought that was a pencil. That stuff. The moon being what a beautiful planet. The people.
Beautiful planet.
People wondering if there's a difference between lava hot and magma hot. By the way, the program looked at it. There is a difference. Magma is hotter than lava.
Really?
So it is absolutely a difference. So
Tracks.
Rex. By the way, lay off Rex if you want to say there's no difference between lava hot and magma hot.
There is.
There is absolutely. Magma hot's as hot as it gets. So when he says Bobby Witt after the All-Star break went from being lava hot the first few games to now he's magma hot, you know what? Let's give credit where credit is due to Rex Hudler. He knew that.
He knows his geology right there.
100%.
He
it
knows,
rocks. He knows geology rocks.
He's
he knows
great
that.
when the team is doing well. Because he's just an optimistic
what?
guy, and when
a
the
good
team's
point.
doing great,
That's a good point.
He's great at what he does.
That's a good point. If they're struggling, it can be a little much at times. But I love watching games with Rex on the call because he is so in tune to almost every pitch that he can – I mean, he predicts so much about what's happening because he's in every pitch. Like he's in the mind of the batters and the pitchers. And how many times? And that's why he's able to go, because he's seeing where the pitch is going, the velocity, the swing, and he's knowing immediately if that's a home run or it's driven to the wall or something like that.
Yeah, and bad news, I did check the audio clip I found. Bally Sports didn't do him any justice either. They clipped the part where he said that off.
Dang it.
So.
Dang it, that's too bad.
Sorry to throw them under the bus, but it is
what
it is.
Dylan Michaels that did that, not me. Yeah. I did not. All I said
I didn't
was
create
I wanted
the game.
to see.
I didn't create the game. I'm just playing
the
it.
player, not the game.
I'm just playing it.
All I said was that I wanted to see the foul ball leave the stadium. That was it. That's all I said.
All I said is that Salvador Perez turning on a 97-mile-an-hour fastball up in the zone was very nice to see.
It's beautiful.
Very nice to see Salvi get going a little bit there, and again, not being late. Of course, he had a couple of questionable swings in the game, but when you turn on 97 up in the zone, you love at his age specifically. That bat ain't slowing down.
Well, it's not only that. It's, he knows they're going low and away.
Yeah.
He knows they're going low and away. And he's getting frustrated with himself at times because he's swinging over the top at low and away. And you're like, Salvi, come on, man. This is year 25 in Major League Baseball, and they're still pitching you low and away, and you're still swinging over the top. What are you doing? So him thinking, because he fouled off a couple of pitches low and away.
Yeah.
So he's got to be thinking low and away. And then he react to high fastball at 97 and got on top of it to rip it down the left field line.
Yeah.
That ain't easy to do.
No.
And a great point on Rex talking about Vinny. that, Vinny, they're throwing him breaking balls, and then they tried to sneak a fastball past the fastball hitter. And he's like, he's always going to be ready for his pitch. Like, he's a fastball hitter. He's going to be ready for the fastball. Even if you've been throwing him breaking ball, you're not going to sneak it by him, coming up. Even if you've lowered his angle and you've lowered the eye level and you're throwing low. Now we're trying to high fastball. He's still going to get it. He's Vinny. He hit it foul, hit a home run foul, but it's like you're not going to do that with Vinny up there. Rex is
You're not
so good,
sneaking a piece of cheese past a hungry Vinny.
That's exactly right. It would be cheese. It would be like past a hungry. You're not sneaking a cannoli past a hungry Vinny.
Rigatone or something.
Yeah, not sneaking some rigatoni past a hungry Vinny. Right?
I want some baked ziti so
there you
bad
go.
right
You're not
now.
sneaking that past Vinny. No way.
Or past me.
That's right. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, continue rolling. We'll hear from Seth Lugo, what he said in the clubhouse about those adjustments, why this outing was different than his past few outings. His conversation with MLB Network. And then during the show, I want to at least play Tom Brady that was with Stephen A. Smith, Derwin James telling us who the toughest wide receiver, tight end is to guard in the NFL, and Belichick weighing in on the difficulties the Chiefs will be facing trying to three-peat. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We're hanging out in Lawrence. It's KU Media Day. We'll talk with Jalen Daniels coming up at 11:30. An hour from now, KU quarterback Jalen Daniels. We'll talk with him. Devin Neal. We'll talk with him coming up at noon. Otherwise known as maybe the best running back in NCAA College 25, Devin Neal, and Lance Leipold, head coach of the Kansas Jayhawks. We'll talk to him coming up in the noon hour as well. And then the Chiefs coordinators will be talking today at 1 o'clock, and then we'll see if any players are there. But we know the coordinator day for the Chiefs today. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We are hanging out on the road, the Zone on the Road, presented by Miva Medical, Kansas City's trusted endovascular specialties. We'll take a timeout. More Zone next. Look, I know the things that I was dealing with when it came to symptoms that ended up being low testosterone. I don't know the man's health. I doubt he, Rex has low testosterone watching the games. It's awesome. You know that he's probably not going through some of the things that maybe men like myself in the late 30s and 40s that might.
the game. As far as throwing them where I'd like, I'd say they're all pretty equal. I know which pitches tend to get hit a little more. So try to be a little careful with those. Pick out the hitters that that will work. But I've always had confidence to throw stuff in the zone. I mean, that's what you have to do in baseball. You have to throw strikes. So as far as throwing the pitches, pretty comfortable trying out basically anything.
I think that's the beautiful part about having 8, 9 pitches. Like early in the presser or at his locker, he was asked about, like, was that a slurve? And he's like, oh, it's kind of 3 different pitches. It sort of like combines and goes together, but it's sort of 3 different things there, or versions, but it all shows up in the pitch tracks as like a slurve. But having those 9 different pitches to have, that he says, there's some I've got more confidence than others, that I'm better at pitching, but it just depends on the guy I'm going up against and what his weaknesses might be. Where, again, this is not a let's go after Brady Singer. Not trying to do that, but the Brady Singer, when he's got the sinker slider, when he's on with that, oh, he's so good. When his sinker slider is on, he's so good. When he's pinpointing the 2-seam and throwing it at the left-hander's hip and it works back in for a strike, it's one of the more beautiful pitches. But if one of those isn't on that day, whereas if Lugo's going through a game and his curveball is not, he doesn't have the feel for it. Okay, well, I got a 4-seam, I got a 2-seam, I got a slurve, I got a slider, I've got a changeup, I've got all these different pitches that I can go to that might be working that particular day, when you've got all those choices to go with. And him, saying in a different clip that, his body feels fine. Like there was a question about, the innings that you've put on. Are you doing anything different? Do you feel any different? He's like, no, I feel the exact same. I feel fresh. Like I'm doing the same routine between starts. Everything feels, fine. I mean, we look at the numbers,
sure,
and there's always a concern about injury when a guy goes from having a career high in innings pitched in a year, and he's going to blow by it. He's on pace to pitch like 200 and some odd innings. That there is a concern there from an injury, but at least what he's presenting publicly in terms of how he feels, that he says he feels the same. And if he didn't, I don't think Q would leave him in that long. I don't think Q would leave him out there to go 6 and 7 innings if Seth Lugo was saying, yeah, coach, my arm's getting a little tired right now. It's like, I'm feeling a little weaker as the game goes along.
Yeah, I think it's a very good point, is Q would not leave him out there that long. He went 7 last night, 97 pitches last night.
Yeah.
Again, we saw if he is trying to protect Lugo, he'll do it. He'll take him out.
Yeah.
That was it the Marlins game, or that we always go back. Like there's that one specific game that we go back to.
They lost that game, by the way.
But it's true. If they're trying to protect him, they know when to take him out. And Q obviously feels that he is fine. And again, I do think we sometimes overreact when it comes to the innings a guy or the amount of pitches a dude throws. Like, these guys don't just only throw that. Think of all the pitches they throw that don't get registered because you're warming up for an inning. Prior to the game, all your stretches. I love that. Those don't count.
Yeah,
those don't. None of those count.
You
might throw 12 instead of 10 when you're warming up for an inning, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Those don't count. Only the ones that are to an actual batter. How many bullpen sessions do they throw in between starts? Sometimes I think it's a little. We get a little too
in the weeds.
Too in the weeds.
Can't see the forest for the trees at times.
And sometimes I'm sitting here going, dude, 8 less pitches in a game is not going to save him compared to all the bullpen sessions, all this stuff that happens during the season.
That's why I don't the innings it's an easy thing to look at.
Yes.
And pitch count's an easy thing to look at. But it's also the stress, how easy it looked like some of those innings were.
Sure.
Did he have guys on base the entire 5 and 6 innings? Was it, 6 innings and he was getting Ks and, getting soft contact and pitching through pretty easily? Like, I think there's a difference in that way in what an outing is. Before we take a break, let's hear from Seth Lugo. After the game was over, he was on MLB Network and just talking about his season, talking about his choice to sign with the Royals, what it's like playing with Bobby Witt, the position the Royals are in right now. Here's Seth Lugo on MLB Network last night.
Seth Lugo joins Tarek Skubal and Chris Sale, the only pitchers of 14 wins so far this season. Seth, congratulations. How's it feel?
Thank you. It feels great. It's a pretty great feeling, especially with the way the boys are playing right now.
Hey, Seth, when you entered the free agent market, were you surprised that the Royals came after you?
A little bit, especially after the year they had last year. But, I faced them. They beat me around real bad in San Diego, so I knew they had some talent.
When you were with the Mets, you were kind of in the rotation, back into the bullpen. You always wanted to be a starting pitcher. Do you feel that's what you're best suited for?
I think so. The way I think about setting up hitters and pitching, especially with the different pitch types, it was tough in relief. I can only throw a couple pitches, the inning's over. I want to throw a few different other shapes.
Hey, Seth, it's Harold here. I watched as the Royals put this club together in the offseason, and you just talked about you saw them the year before. I could tell they were coming, and when they started signing guys like yourself and a few other veterans, I was all in. What did you see as the winter started to develop, and you're one of the early guys to sign, you started seeing the rest of it? What did you see?
Well, I saw their infield really as a pitcher. You got Bobby and you got Vinny. I knew a little bit about Michael, but I didn't realize he was as good as he is. I know the stadium's awesome. It's a big park, great for pitchers. But I thought they put up really professional bats against me last year. We saw the record coming in, and they didn't play like it, and I knew they were going in the right direction.
Hey, Seth, it's Dan again. When I was with the Brewers coming up, we had 2 Hall of Fame players in Robin Yount and Paul Molitor. Can you give us an insight? When I was playing, I had guys on our teams ask me about, man, Molitor, Yount, are they this good? If somebody asked you about Bobby Witt, what makes him so special?
It's hard to say. I mean, the at bats he puts up, the way he swings it, every hit he gets, it's like 111 off the bat. That's a soft one. But he does it every day. It doesn't matter who's pitching, where they're pitching him, in the zone, out of the zone. He's the best player I've ever seen. And his defense is incredible.
Yeah, no, he can do it all, man. It's special to watch, and it's fun being around a player like that. I want to ask you about you. We watched you develop through the years and just be the strike thrower, all the different things that you do with the ball, the development. You got 14 wins right now, lead the majors. Is that a mindset, wanting to get those wins? Does it matter to starting pitchers?
For me, it does. I feel like for a starter, to get a win, you got to pitch deep. You have to go at least 5. But if I can get 6 or 7 innings and limit the other team, I got a good chance. But wins is what I'm chasing. I've always thought wins was the coolest stat. Even as a reliever, I was happy when I'd sneak in them wins.
I love that.
That's wins and innings. That's 2 things I care about.
Royal starters now 5-0, 1.14 ERA their last 5 games. Seth, your first-time All-Star. You're on pace to pitch 209 innings, which would be the most by a Royal starter since 2014. And as you mentioned, 14 wins, tied for the Major League lead. Congrats, man.
All right, there you go. There was Seth Lugo on MLB Network last night talking about Bobby Witt, the best player he's ever seen. And the Royals coming after him and hitting him around last year, so you knew they had some talent. So we'll take a timeout. We'll come back, continue rolling, wrap up this hour, and then we'll talk with Les Norman a little more baseball, breaking the norm with Les Norman about what he's seeing from this Royals squad, tied with the Twins, 2.5 games behind the Guardians, 4.5 games up in the wild card, and we'll talk with him a little bit more about that. More's on next. talk with him about this Royals team and what he's seeing from them, the starting staff, why they're playing better baseball. Is it team opponent related? Maybe a little. Is it just how they're going about their business? And going through a stretch of playing the Red Sox and the Twins and feeling like they weren't playing good baseball, what can you take from that? And now playing the way they are, hopefully the next couple of days mimic what we've seen these last 5 games. Can you take from the struggles you felt like you may have had against the Red Sox and Twins and see what the issues were as you get ready for some very big series starting on Friday? Les Norman comes up next. and Crook, victim of a wrongful personal injury and seeking compensation, then call Biesterveld and Crook at 913-LAW-5050. That's 913-LAW-5050. Les, welcome into the show. How are you, brother?
It is scientifically proven that if I don't get enough sleep, I don't even answer this phone call, dang it. I need my sleep, man.
Dude, it's scientifically proven that I am not in a great mood if I don't get enough sleep. It's
no doubt. But, I was watching the game yesterday, too, and my bride was on Sterling's side. Like, what is going on? There's nobody there. It's the fifth game in a row. I'm like, wow, when did you – that's amazing. Yeah. I said, but remember, there's school, and it's Monday, and it doesn't matter. So you have an agreement there, Sterling, with my bride.
I think this weekend's going to be good, though. I think the Phillies in town. We're going to the game on Sunday. I think Phillies in town. It's going to be a fun series, depending on what happens the next couple of days. I mean, they may be in second place in the division by themselves. I mean, they may be sitting like a half game out of first place by the time they play the Phillies on Friday. So I think this weekend's going to be a lot of fun.
Let's stop talking about this wild card, man. I mean, they got a chance to win the division. Think about the division, and then the wild card could just fall in your lap. But they're not out of this division race either. That we very easily could see them at the end being in because they won the division. That's within their reach.
Dude, I mean, June 25th, we talked a little bit about this earlier in the show, just as sort of putting into perspective of where they are now, less than a couple months later. But June in the last, 44 games they've played. So June 25th, they were 10 games back of the Guardians. They're 27-17 since then, and they're now 2.5 games back in that time frame. Yeah. And look, we wondered if the Guardians would come back to earth a little bit, and certainly they have. But the Royals have the best record since the All-Star break in Major League Baseball. So they have been playing better baseball. That includes losing 2 of 3 to the Red Sox, losing 2 of 3 to the Minnesota Twins. And Les, I'll just ask you, there's probably a little bit of both in this, but I'm glad that Jack Johnson and I had a conversation on Friday about the Reds and not dismissing how good the Reds were and the way they were playing at that time, because the Royals going out and sweeping, we don't revise history and go, yeah, but this team, the Royals, they win 3 games and really sweep the Reds. They're 4 games under 500. Yeah, they're 4 games under 500 because you just beat them 3 times in a row. If you lost all 3 of those games, they'd be 2 games over 500, but they are not. And then they win last night. They're 5-3 in their last 8 games. Those 3 losses are to the Royals. So the way the Royals are playing now, what are you seeing from them? Is it different than the way they played against the Twins and the Red Sox? And is some of it opponent induced from your standpoint?
Well, I think any team. You're not playing the White Sox, so it's not a situation where I don't think you're playing against a team that you should beat, and even if you have 4 or 5 bad breaks against you, you're still probably going to win because the other team is just so bad. I think as of this morning, the White Sox are 43 games out of first place. My gosh, at this point
they have been mathematically eliminated last night. I think
they were mathematically eliminated from this season in the middle of last season. It's been so bad. Holy cow.
That's right.
But the good thing is, I think, what you're seeing like Cole Reagans and Seth Lugo. You're seeing some of these guys get hit a little bit more. Their strikeouts are still up, their walks are still down, but they're getting hit a little bit more and still persevering through that. We saw those guys being so dominant for so long that it was like they're going to give up 1 or 2 runs, no doubt, and it was such this long stretch of a great rotation. Well, you get figured out, advanced scouting comes into play, and you get a little bit tired. You make more mistakes most likely as the year goes on. And, we were talking about Seth Lugo winning a possible Cy Young. Well, he's probably not going to win the Cy Young, but he's still been fantastic, and still got touched. The 7th inning last night, he gave up those 2 runs in 1 inning. And, so you're seeing guys that aren't going to be perfect, and yet the offense still picking them up. I know that we've seen the offense that could really score late, and Bobby Witt Jr.'s continued heroics and all that, but you're just seeing guys that just almost like there's not even a scoreboard on the screen, and I love that. And that's how teams win, when you have a really short memory of a negative thing that just happened. You're pitching, whether they're on their best self or not, and again, this is a rotation that has really been on most of the year. but difficulty doesn't matter when there are things you have to persevere from, and you can forget the scoreboard and continue to get after. You're getting timely hitting, you're getting pitching that just bears down even when things aren't going your way or what you expected. And I love a team that wasn't expected to contend, that all of a sudden believes they're going to win no matter what anybody says, no matter what, us 3-4 yahoos are talking about on the radio. They don't care. All they care about is the fact that they're going to go out there and give their team a chance to win every day. And it's weird to say you can see an attitude through the way people play, seeing something that is emotional and mental through the physical way they play the game is weird. But to me, when I watch, that's what I see.
Yeah, that's interesting. From what, it felt like there was an element of worrying about a play going against them and then losing that game. With the Red Sox and Twins series, that an error and okay, well, there you go. Garcia throws over to first. It skips away from Vinny, 2 runs scored. It's well, that's the game. And it was, in the first inning? Second inning? I'm the game's over at that point. It's not what we have seen from this Royals team at times this year, to where it's you got down 2 or 3 runs depending on how it was. I mean, they're leading the league in comeback wins. I mean, so this hasn't been a team that's just sort of stopped playing baseball, but it certainly felt like the air was out of the balloon in a couple of those games, and that's not the case. But also it's this formula, Les, and I think that's what's more encouraging of, what we've seen for this team since, losing those 2 games against the Twins. And Cole Reagans goes to the mound, and he is 100% a stopper on this team. He doesn't have to stop anything today. He has to continue. He's a continuer today with the 5-game winning streak. But since that losing, 2 games to the Twins, showing up, last Wednesday, and it's been pitching. The starting staff has been good. The defense has been really solid. The offense has, done enough and coming through in clutch moments. And the bullpen has been good enough. Certainly Lucas Erceg matters a lot in this bullpen. But that's the formula. When they were struggling, Les, they were giving up, 7, 8 runs, 9 runs. They were losing, 9-5, 8-3. That's not how this team is winning games. They're winning games when they're, scoring 4 and 5 runs. I put out the numbers earlier today. The Royals have won 20 straight games, less allowing 4 runs or fewer. They are 20-0. They're 66-16 on the season.
Jeez.
When they allow 4 or fewer runs. That's the formula.
Amazing.
That's what we've seen these last 5 games is pitching, defense, score enough, and you win games.
Yeah, those are amazing statistics that I didn't even know. And one of the cool things about that is the Royals were winning games when MacArthur was not a closer, but kind of the closer, that he was just the guy, and we were talking about that too. But he was just on a hot streak, because then we kind of saw him when he was really going, and when he would try to pick, he would walk too many guys and throw too many pitches, or he'd put it over the middle of the plate. Now when Erceg comes in, all of a sudden you take the burden off from MacArthur. You have a little bit more of an expectation in the 5th and 6th inning as you're winning games on how this is going to play out. And you got Erceg on the backside who is doing his thing. And so it's great to have, with, less than 40 games left, the ability, maybe not as good as it was with, Holland, Herrera, Wade Davis, the HDH thing, but still you're starting to have a plan come to fruition. And so, anything can happen. Who knows, something negative could happen, and we're oh man, we thought they're going to be in the playoffs. I mean, most likely they will, but any crazy thing can happen. It's a weird game, but the whole point is that you're starting to see things develop that make you feel good about it, and that puts you really in a good place to be in contention for all this at the end of the season. And so the statistics behind you don't lie. You look behind you to see where you've come from, but you also look forward to see where it can take you, and that's pretty exciting for this team.
What does it do for a team in a mindset when maybe not the bullpen, but the starting staff and the position players in the offense, when the back end or the bullpen has been suspect at times, and the Red Sox are going through it with one of the worst bullpens in baseball, and the Royals were going through it when you just couldn't trust anybody. This is a very it's not apples and apples, but the Chiefs talk about all the time we got number 15. The defense is going out there playing, doing what they can because we got number 15. It is not the same. I'm just wondering, is there an element of that when Lucas Erceg is in the bullpen for whether it be the starters or the position players or the offense, as opposed to, man, we got to put 5 runs up here. We got to score some more. We got to put 3 or 4. You always want to continue to add on, but we're winning 2-1. We're winning 3-2. We got to add more runs because the bullpen. I trust the guys, love the guys. Oh yeah, we're out here. It's a team game, but we got to add 3 more runs, guys, or we're going to lose this game. As opposed to, you're up 4-1, you got bases loaded, 1 out, the dude comes out and strikes out the number 2 and 3 hitter for the Reds, and then goes out and gives up no more runs in the 8th, and he stranded 11 inherited runners. Only 4 guys have got on base. Is there an element of sort of a trust, a more of a confidence that's there with the position players, the offense, when you add that guy into the bullpen as opposed to the question marks with almost anybody that ran out there from the pen?
Well, look at it this way. I mean, Jason, you're unbelievably great at what you do, right? Okay, right. I'll say it for you, right. You're great at what you do. But if you come in and you don't do research, can you still do your job? Absolutely.
No.
Because you have a lot of knowledge and you're a fan of sports and you have a lot of experience. But you're not going to feel the same if you don't do research. If you don't watch Royals for a week and then you have me come on and we're supposed to talk about it, you're going to still host it and you're still going to do a good job, but you're still not going to do the best job that you could be, and our conversation might not be as interesting, or somebody else is going to kind of have to carry the situation. I mean, you think about it in any kind of sport, when you don't have mental pressure, you still have the intelligence of, okay, this is baseball, we need to score more runs. This is football, okay, let's just keep scoring touchdowns. There's never a time during any kind of game in sports where you say, yeah, we got enough runs, let's stop trying. It doesn't work that way. But boy, is your job a lot easier when you're prepared, when you have the guy next to you that's dealing. I mean, I would rather be winning in the 9th inning 2-1 with complete. I mean, yeah, I would love to be winning 7-1, but how good do you feel when it's 7-1, but the guy that's closing has given up 4 runs in the last 3 consecutive games he's pitched? I mean, you start to play tight. You start to play mentally not ready, or you lack confidence, and your body does not respond when you're thinking and trying to do things physical at the most elite level in the world. And so I would rather relax and put that complete trust in a guy and have that guy that I can trust in and just go out and do my thing. That's when you're probably going to score more runs without trying so much, because you're not thinking, you're just doing. And so that's why you have a great team, both pitching and hitting, good defense like you've had with the Royals, and then you get a guy like Erceg on the backside. I mean, holy cow. You're like, you know what? We probably should have scored 8-9 runs, but we're still in this thing, and we got a really good shot to win. I mean, that's a great place to live and a great place to be as a player in any profession, let alone on the Royals.
In the same vein here, with the Royals now, how many games left is that? 37, if I'm not mistaken.
37.
It's basically a playoff push, right? We know that as it sits right now, they are in the playoffs. They have a nice lead, but you obviously want to continue that and potentially try and catch the Cleveland Guardians. But a lot of these guys have not been in this moment before. Hunter Renfroe's played on a couple playoff teams, but for the majority of these guys, this is a whole new situation and scenario for them. How do you think these mostly young guys, inexperienced guys, handle the pressure of a playoff push?
That's a great question, Sterling. I think we talked a little bit about this a couple weeks ago. First you've got your veterans. We've talked about, this pitching staff. Walker's been there, Lugo's been there. You've got Will Smith has been there. You've got a lot of guys that have been in big games and won big games, or sometimes even better with young guys who have lost in big games, to tell them how to handle things on both sides of it. But then also, this is a unique team because you have a once in a lifetime, not just a generation, but once in a lifetime player in Bobby Witt Jr., who last night, you see when he made that play up the middle, he dove to his left, came up, quick shift of his feet, and then threw it to first and still got the guy by 2 steps. And as soon as he got the out, the camera panned back to his face. And what's the first thing that you guys saw?
You smiling,
laughing,
mm-hmm.
Like, I just did that. That was fun. Give me the ball.
This is fun.
That's great.
Baseball's fun.
Baseball's fun. And granted, that's because part of it is because he doesn't have as much experience in losing yet. He doesn't have much game experience. He hasn't had to go through any injuries. He's really not had anything to persevere from yet. But it's also the one thing that you ask. I mean, George Brett said in my last at bat, what I want to do is hit a hard ground ball to second base so I can just be airing it out down to first base. That's how I want to go out of the game. I guarantee you that's what Bobby Witt Jr. would say, although we'd rather see him hit one into right center and watch his last at bat 20 years from now to be diving into third base with a triple when he's 40 years old. Wouldn't that be awesome? But it's that rejuvenation that he has. And so then you got a guy like Vinny Pasquantino heading back into your question, Sterling. You know, he's a guy that this is really his first full big league year, but he doesn't play like that. I mean, we know time-wise, experience, big league time, service time of what he has. But when you watch him play, I don't know if it's because it's the look on his face, because he looks like he could step on the average human being and squash him like a bug, because of the way he just approaches the game. But I don't look at him. I have to remind myself he has not been a big leaguer very long, but he looks like he acts like and he plays like he's been there as a 10-year veteran. And so, again, a unique team with veterans that can help the young guys, but also a lot of young guys that aren't just looking to the example of veterans, but looking to the example of, I'm sorry that you're young, but it's time to win now. And these young guys realize the expectations. I remember being there, and, you know, Gooby helped me. Monty helped me. You know, I was playing with guys like Wally Joyner and Gaetti and Gagne. Now, look, those guys were great players. But Wally Joyner and Greg Gagne and Gary Gaetti did not talk to young guys and bring them along. Jose Lean did not talk to young guys, at least not to me that I saw, and bring them along. Gooby did it all the time. Jeff Montgomery did it all the time. And it wasn't us going to them. It was them coming to us when you did some. I remember one time I was in right field. There was a pop fly in foul territory. I didn't come within 30 feet of it before it hit the ground, and yet I dove anyway. And as soon as I came in the clubhouse, Gooby looked at me, sought me at the steps, and he's like, "Dude, we don't go for false hustle around here." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Did you really have to dive for that?" I'm like, "Yeah, probably not. I just got overexcited." He's like, "Well, what if you hurt yourself? You're in the starting lineup today, and you don't do us any good if you're on the DL. Dive for a ball that you have an opportunity to dive for because it just doesn't look very good. Love the hustle, but there's a time and a place for everything." So he was growing me up in my mind, not just in my physical play. And I guarantee you've got a clubhouse full of guys like that, but young guys who already understand the game and are probably already thinking it. You know, last thing I'll say on this is that when the infield was going to come to the mound, Salvi came out. I can't remember if it was Lugo still pitching or what, but I think it was a leadoff double, and they were coming out to talk about it. So Salvi's walking out, but who got to the mound first? Bobby Witt Jr. He was the first guy there because he was either wanting to learn what they wanted to do, or he had some insight as a big league starting shortstop, say, hey, this is what we should probably do. He probably was going to respectfully listen to Salvi first, but then offer his input, and then Bobby Witt Jr. is going to go talk to the rest of the infield and say, hey, we're going to do this, this, and this. A young guy with very little experience, but already in his mind plays like a big leaguer, and that's why you have such a unique and advanced mindset to go along with some amazing talent.
And they win a game last night in which, you know, Bobby and Vinny combined to go 1 for 6 and don't drive in a run. Like, you have to win those games too. You can't just simply rely on Bobby and Vinny going, you know, 3 for 8 and 4 RBIs and 2 runs scored and, you know, a couple of extra base hits along the way. Like, you've got to have some games that you find a way to win and other guys come through. Salvi with a huge double, picks up 3 RBIs on the night. Paul DeYoung with a 2-run shot, you know, to left field and to add some runs on the board. Like, those things have to happen. The bullpen coming in and getting it done, again, without Lucas Erceg. So you had no Erceg last night, and you had Bobby and Vinny combined 1 for 6 with no RBIs. And you found a way to win that game 5-3.
Yeah, but they also contributed some great defense too.
Yeah, true.
You know, so
I mean, Vinny, how high did he get on that leap, huh? That's a Vinny. I mean, he might as well try out for the NBA now. That's like a 40-inch vertical, I think.
Yeah, you saw Salvi as the game was over, and he was just coming up to celebrate, and he pinched his fingers together toward Vinny like, dude, that was, hey, like I was talking about, hey, don't give false hustle. You know you didn't even jump for that. You're just like 6'12". So, yeah, but they're contributing, you know, with solid defense. They're contributing with young leadership. So sometimes, you know, we're getting spoiled with Bobby Witt Jr. hitting home runs all the time and hitting triples, and having multiple hit games and still hitting, 345 at the end of a big league season. I mean, are you kidding me? And so when you get spoiled like that, you can't overlook just them stepping on the field and being healthy and being in the lineup. Bobby Wood Jr. might go over, but he also might make a pitcher rest when Vinny comes up because, I just got through Bobby Wood Jr. and then make a mistake and then Vinny crushes one. Or same with Vinny and then Salvi crushes one. So sometimes you've got to look a little bit harder for their contribution, but make no mistake, the contributions are not just getting 3 hits and hitting a home run and driving in 3-4 runs combined per game. It goes elsewhere too.
All right. Les Norman, you are the man. Appreciate it as always, brother. We will look forward to our conversation next Tuesday already, see where the Royals are at as they will be taking care of the, hopefully, Philadelphia Phillies coming up this weekend, and obviously big series with some inter-division games or intra-division games. Les, you're the man as always, man. Appreciate it, brother.
Thanks for having me, guys. Always glad to be here.
Absolutely. There's Les Norman, Breaking the Norm, presented by TruckMovers.com, First Federal Bank of Kansas City, Biesterveld, and Crook. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, continue rolling. More Zone next.
that you just named that by itself. I can't put a number on it at all, but it's definitely been a lot of times I've been asked that. But when you're getting asked that, you have to realize that they're coming from a good spot. They're actually caring about your well-being. They want you to be able to be out there as much as you want to be out there. So when you're asked that question, you try to answer it as truthfully as possible. But you also let them know that you're doing everything that you can to be able to get back out there.
I was going to say, does it take a little while to get the mindset of like, okay, it's coming from a good place, rather than, again, I'm doing fine, guys. I'm doing fine, because just constantly texts or calls, or is it coaches? Is it fans? Is it family? Is it random people on the street?
Yeah, you get it everywhere. You know, you don't really necessarily know where it's going to come from, but to answer your question, like when everything was happening, it's hard to you try to keep a positive mindset, as positive as possible, but when you're not able to be out there with the guys, it's definitely hard on yourself. So while you're trying to answer these questions positively, at the end of the day, it's like, bruh, I'm not good enough to be able to be out there with the guys. But now that I'm back out there 100% with the guys, ready to go, play a football game, I'm able to answer those questions confidently, and I'm just like, I'm great, man. I'm just ready for game one.
What's Jalen Daniels like? The difference between last year watching the guys play versus you out there during practice playing and knowing the season is right around the corner?
Yeah, sadly, it wasn't my first time sitting out because of injury. The 2022 season, I got hurt against TCU and had to sit out a good portion of that season, and then got the chance to be able to come back against Texas that year. At the end of the day, being a captain and a leader on the team, you have to be able to, stay as positive as possible, especially when you're inside these walls, because, there's a lot of guys that are looking at you, and as much as you don't realize, how much your facial expression or how you go about stuff every single day can affect the team, that's what it is. That's the job that I have, and, being able to come in with that positive mindset, even though I have things going on internally, I try to be able to stay as positive as possible.
Do you learn that over time? Does somebody pass that down to you? You got to campus, I think you were, 12 when you when you walked on campus for the first time? Doogie Howser over here.
You're not far off.
17 years old when you got to campus. That's crazy, man. Is that somebody in the program that passes that along, of like, man, facial expressions, how you interact, the tone of voice? If you're in a good mood, that can then make somebody else feel like they're in a good mood. If you're in a bad mood, okay, well, why is Jalen okay, are we what's the deal here?
Yeah.
Is that something you learn? Is it coaches? How do you develop that over the 17 years you've been here?
I definitely feel like that 17 years since I've been here. Hey, I caught that one. I caught that one. But
the old guy at 21 years old.
Yeah, you're telling me I'm getting called the old guy at 21. I'm just like, when I first got here, it was 20 people at 25, 24 on the team. So, but I feel like that comes from my mom. She raised me as a single mother all the way until I was in 6th, 7th grade. And, I've always said that, especially when I got to high school, like I grew up with no struggles. And, now that I'm older and I'm able to, look back on everything that she went through to be able to raise me as a single mother, she didn't really make it look like there was any struggles. She always kept a smile on her face. I don't really remember a time that my mother cried when I was growing up. Wow. So, looking back at things like that, I'm like, if she's able to stay up strong and, do everything that she can for me, why can't I do the same thing for her? My mom is my main motivation, my main piece of why I do everything that I do today and why I go about everything that I do today.
Jalen Daniels is our guest. So take me back to last year, because I'm curious about how, sort of everything came about. How difficult was that for you to sit out and watch? You're talking about, having to watch the guys and being a leader still, being a captain, and how you sort of present yourself. But there was a lot of conversation outside of the building, maybe in the building, I don't know. It sort of felt like when we would talk about it, there was this feeling of, well, it's a foregone conclusion. Jalen Daniels is going to transfer. He's going somewhere else. You can't think of Jalen Daniels in the 2024 season being the quarterback. What was going through your mind when people are talking about those things and you hear, your name being brought up as like, well, he's going to transfer, he's gone, he's not going to be around, he's got this big decision to make. Was that going on behind the scenes, or what was that like for you to experience firsthand when your name's being discussed as to whether or not they're getting the story right?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, I was already hurting physically. There was times where I couldn't, physically do what I wanted to do. I couldn't really walk sometimes when I wanted to, let alone being able to go out there and play football, be able to play 100% the way I wanted to play. So, when you're dealing with the physical pain of the game, and then you're starting to add all of this external stuff that's coming from outside of the building, and it could leak into the building, like, JD, are you really transferring, or is this the media or everything like that? For me, I'm just like, guys, you see me in this building every single day in the training room trying to do what I can to be able to, go out there on the field. And, when these situations were happening inside the building, they seen that and they're just like, if he could go out there and play ball, I'm sure he would. So, it's hard, especially to, decipher whether it's just the media talking or if this is actually happening. So, for me, all I could do was, try to reassure my teammates, like, bro, if I could go out there on the field and play with you guys, I would. We've done this whole entire offseason. We've been doing everything to be able to get to this point. Like, nobody does all of the offseason training, all of the fall camp, the spring ball, and everything 100% to not play the season. I feel like the season is the reward that you get from being able to do all of that during the offseason. So I feel like it was just more about being able to reassure my guys that were inside the building and, being able to – I'm not big on media. So when the media is talking about these certain stuff, I'm not the guy to be like, what are you talking about? Like, no, I'm going to let the media talk until it's time for me to be able to, to come out with what's going to happen. And, when the end of the season came, it was time for me to be able to let everybody know I was coming back. For me, when I first got hurt, I didn't want any type of I didn't want the story to be, all right, Jalen Daniels is out. Like, no, I believe I got hurt, what is that, game 4 or 5?
Game 4.
We still have a full season to go. Yeah. We have a bowl team that is able to go play a bowl game later down the line, and we don't need to be worried about if the starting quarterback is able to go or not. When we have a guy like Jason Bean who was able to go out there, been playing for the Kansas football program, has made a lot of plays, won a lot of games, a lot of big games for our program. And, when you're able to have that next man up mentality, it allows us to be able to keep going as a program. Because, if you want me to be honest, when Jason Bean got hurt, that's kind of how I ended up being able to play against Kansas State in 2021. It's a next man up mentality in this game of football. So, in that situation, you just have to be able to keep on keeping the guys positive, keep the guys going, and be able to inspire the team.
It sounds like there was never a decision for you behind the scenes. While people were talking about he's transferring, it doesn't sound like there was even a question about transferring. It was about trying to get back out there and play football again.
Not at all. I tried everything I could to be able to play that season. There was a couple of games where I was talking to Coach, like, Coach, I want to be able to play this game. If I can, let me go. And it just didn't go. Like, the opportunity for me to be able to play wasn't there physically, and Coach didn't want me to go out there. So, after having a lot of those close conversations with Coach Leipold, I've always said ever since the beginning that, he's been one of the most upfront and honest coaches that I've ever had in my life. And, when we're talking about these tough conversations, these tough decisions, he's going to keep it 100 with me.
I'm 44, not 21. And if there were conversations going on externally about somebody that feels like there's definitely a way that I'm feeling or something that I'm going to be doing or a decision I'm making that is completely false.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I could just ignore it
and
not go publicly and say this is wrong. How is a 21-year-old is able just to go, I don't need to correct that right now. Like, people talking about me transferring. I'm not transferring. It doesn't matter. It's all about here internally. How can you go about ignoring that when it's very easy to send out a tweet from your account or something?
I've never been a Twitter warrior. I've never been somebody who wants to, point Twitter fingers or do this and that. If you want to go back to the year before that season, somebody said that I was going to be out for the whole entire year. And that was something that I absolutely was not okay with, because now you're trying to base my future on your own decision off something that you heard. And when I'm trying my best to be able to get back on that field, and now everybody's saying, like, Jalen Daniels is officially done for the year, now you're making me try even harder to get back on the field. So that's exactly what I did. I took that to Twitter, but that it's not many things that go around my name where I'm like, yeah, I gotta go dead this on social media.
From 2 wins to 6 wins to 9 wins to now preseason top 25. How have you seen this program grow?
Yeah, it's definitely been a journey. It hasn't been easy. Being able to, my freshman year, we went 0-9. So this is before the 2-season win. And, being able to see the transition of how we go about things, how we, focus on the little things within our program, how we do stuff on the day-to-day basis. These little things that we harp on is the little things that give us those opportunities to be able to go out there and win every Saturday. So, when we're talking about this is the little difference that you never know what the difference will be. So when you have to be here on time and you have to do these certain apps, you have to weigh in by this time, you have to check off your extra work. These are little stuff that people on the outside don't really know that we do on the inside of these walls. So, we try to harp on and focus on the little things inside these walls because we can't control everything outside of it.
Yeah, see, pride, relentless belief. Like, you see all those just plastered everywhere.
Yes, pride,
Wi-Fi right there. I thought we were just pointing things out. Sorry about that. Jalen Daniels is our guest. Positive. I mean, you've got your top 3 wide receivers coming back, and all in the same recruiting class. Like, what's that group like? Like the 4 of you, and you got your top 3 guys, and you came into Kansas together, and now going into the final year together with your main guys to throw the ball to.
Man, it's amazing. I mean, to be able to see the upgrade, the transition that we've had over the past, going on the 5th season now. You know, I just remember when we first got to campus in July 2020. That's a long time ago. That's a long time ago. But in June 2020, I mean, I remember when we first got to campus, it was COVID time, so we weren't able to go inside the building. I mean, that receiving group was on the Stouffer Field, which is the dorm room for the University of Kansas, and we're just on the field throwing routes. Even before we were able to get out there and go practice with the whole entire team. I mean, this is something that we've been working for. I mean, we've had the goal of being able to help transition and help turn around the program, and the fact that, you know, we could say that we were the team. Like, sadly, we were the team that went 0-9, but we were the team that went 2-10, the team that went 6-7, and the team that went 9-4. So, you know, we've been able to make, you know, jumps and steps every single year. So we're hoping to be able to make another jump this year.
There's an appreciation to it, though.
Absolutely.
Because you've been at that 0-9 spot, and now you're number 22 in America, whereas some freshmen coming in, they're coming in to number 22 in America.
Yeah.
They're not coming into number 22 in America from 0-9 to 2 wins to 9 wins and experiencing the daily practices, the off-season training to get to this point.
Yeah, I mean, when the freshmen come in, they realize the little stuff that we do. I mean, you know, because – the little stuff that we do from 2021 is totally different from what we do in 2024, which allows us to be able to elevate every single year. I mean, we've implemented more and more every single year, which allows us to be able to, you know, I feel like go out on the field on Saturdays and show that we can be a better team than we were the year before.
Jalen Daniels is our guest. You said that Lance Leipold's one of the most honest coaches you've been around. What's that mean, honesty from a coach? How does that sort of manifest itself and present itself in a relationship between a coach and a player? It's
not just the good; it's the bad as well. Like, if he feels like there's something that you need to work on, he will let you know. He's not going to sugarcoat anything, because at the end of the day, he wants you to be able to develop not just as an athlete but as a man after football. You know, he knows that football will end at some point, and you're coming through the program, which means that he has the opportunity to be able to put his hand on your shoulder and be able to help you develop as a man. So, you know, being able to see him help guys be able to transition into their lives after football has been amazing, because, you know, he's helping us grow. He's not just helping us as a football coach. He's somebody where if we need somebody to vouch for us to be able to get a job after football, he'll be the guy to be able to do that. So when we're talking about being honest as a coach, it means a lot to me, because it's something that, you know, it's not in every program. It's not something that every coach gets. I mean, every player gets to have. So when we're talking about honesty, you got to love that in a head coach.
Visiting with Jalen Daniels, Andy Kotelnicki takes another job. What's it been like, the relationship with Jeff Grimes?
Coach Grimes is a very personable coach. I mean, you know, he's one of the guys who's hit me up asking how I feel as well. So, you know,
he's got a higher number than me asking you how you feel.
No, I wouldn't say a higher number than you, but
okay,
you know, Coach Grimes is definitely a coach where, you know, he doesn't just care about football as well. You know, he comes in, when he came in, he wasn't just like, so what concepts do you like? What do you like to run? When we're talking about plays, what do you do in this situation? Like, no, the first 3-4 months it was, so how are you? Where are you from? What is your main motivation? How is your family? How are your people back home? Like, when you're asking conversations like that and you get to know me as a player as a man before a player, it allows me to be able to have trust in you. When you're growing that trust, now I'm 100% wanting to go out on the field. Every single play that you call is the best play ever. So, you know, I feel like the connection that me and Coach Grimes have is definitely going to show on Saturdays, because I feel like now he knows in certain situations, like, yeah, JD's able to do this. JD wants to run this play in this certain situation, but he didn't come in that way, which allows us to be able to grow.
Does he allow you to maybe design your own plays and come up with ideas?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, absolutely. When we're talking about the pass game and certain trick plays, I'm not gonna expose too many trick plays or any plays that we're running now. But
you saw Holmes on Saturday, right? You're playing an Arrowhead this year.
Hey, look, I'm not gonna say I'm gonna be the behind the back guy, because if it's incompletion, I don't want to come back to the sideline and look at Coach Leipold. So I'm gonna go ahead and leave that behind the back to Patrick Mahomes. I'm gonna let him have it. But you know, there will definitely be a lot of opportunities for guys who you haven't seen in certain positions being able to to get the ball. I mean, I'm not going to say you're only going to see Devin Neal and Daniel Highshaw and DeSavion Morrison in the backfield. I'm not going to say that you're not going to find some of our receivers in the backfield as well. So, when
Lance Leipold's right behind you, by the way, and I'm just joking. Just messing
I would
with
have been
you.
like, my fault, coach. But yeah, I mean, when we're talking about adding these little gadgets and adding certain trick plays that will allow our offense to be able to keep developing, Coach Grimes does a great job of letting the quarterbacks be able to, let him know what we like to run in certain situations.
I saw a coach, and I don't know, it may have been Andy Reid, I'm not sure, but they were talking with a player. They let a player design a play, and they were going through it, and the player then got to run that play, and they were like so excited and pumped, right? And they ran the play, and he goes, now you see how I feel when I put in a play. All right, so you understand that when I'm putting in a play, this is a play that I designed. Yeah. So maybe you should appreciate the fact that I'm calling this play the way that you were so pumped about me calling the play you designed.
Absolutely. I mean, with Coach Grimes, one thing that he said when he first got here is that, he wants to continue putting an emphasis on being the most stressful offense in the nation. We're going to move. We're going to shift. We're going to show you different formations that you probably haven't seen the week before or the week prior to that one. So, when we're able to make these and create these plays for Coach, we're gonna put our own little 2 cents in there. And if we're talking about the quarterback room, it's not just me creating the plays. I'm gonna ask for Cole Ballard, Ben Easters, Mikey Pauley, T.J. Cruz, Isaiah Marshall. I'm gonna ask for everybody's opinion on how to be able to create that play.
Jalen Danz is our guest. I saw an interview where you said that you had talked with Kirk Cousins in the offseason. How did that get set up? How do you get in contact and have a conversation with Kirk Cousins about playing quarterback?
Yeah, Coach T. Sam, my receivers coach, is somebody who got the chance to be able to coach at Michigan State. And Kirk Cousins being the quarterback was somebody that Coach T. Sam, was able to keep contact with over the years since Kirk Cousins has been in the NFL. And before last season, Coach T. Sam did a lot to be able to help me get in contact with Kirk Cousins, to be able to have, conversations that were just beyond, play calling and how life in the NFL was. I feel like Kirk Cousins has showed me a different light to, how to prepare for games, how to prepare your body for a whole entire season, how to be able to go about every single day being a leader inside the building. And, when we're talking about NFL guys, I'm not in the NFL. I haven't been to the NFL. I don't really know many people in the NFL. I mean, unless you want to say Jason Bean now, who's out there making plays. Yeah. But, when we're talking about veterans in the NFL, that was probably the first conversation that I had with a veteran NFL quarterback. So being able to have that conversation with him meant a lot to me.
So did you guys talk about like button-up shirts and like going to Costco and everything like that? Because that seems like Kirk Cousins' sort of a cup of tea.
Definitely a mellow guy. Like loves to go about, how he goes about his life. He's not somebody who's going to change for anybody. I feel like he's going to go about life how he wants to go about life. And, him giving that onto me allows me to be able to say, you're right. Like, you don't need to change yourself for anybody else. I mean, you are who you are. Like, this is how God made you. And, being the person that you are, you need to go out there and be able to shine your light.
Final season, obviously, here at Kansas, but you're playing the majority of your games at Arrowhead. What is that like for you? Is it bittersweet seeing all the amazing renovations obviously happening right now? Because you're part of that. When you go from 0 to 2 to 6 to 9 to now this, that means more money coming into Jayhawk football. You're a big reason for that. But you don't get to play your games there. You're going to Arrowhead. What is that like for you?
Yeah, I mean, I got like I said, when the class of 2020 first got here, we put an emphasis on wanting to be able to help turn around the program. It doesn't mean necessarily turn around the program for us. One thing that Tony Sands, who was a former running back at Kansas, said when he came up here was, every single game that you have, you get the opportunity to be able to go out there and do as much as you can for the University of Kansas. And when you go out there, can you say that you left a brick here for the program? So when we're talking about leaving a brick here, you want to do everything that you can for the people that are coming after you. For the Cole Ballards, for the Isaiah Marshalls. I mean, we're talking about these two young quarterbacks who just came in. They get the opportunity to be able to go play in that new stadium. This is not something that, I get the opportunity to do, but I feel as if I left a brick here.
Lots of bricks.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of bricks out there because they're building. But being able to see the renovation to the stadium, being able to see, it looks halfway done to me. Yeah. I don't build, but it looks halfway done to me. The way everything looks out there, it's definitely a total total difference from when I first signed at the University of Kansas. And, it just makes me excited, makes me happy to be able to see the future of our program.
Yeah. Jalen Daniels, quarterback of the Kansas Jayhawks. Jalen, thank you so much for stopping by, man. I really appreciate it. Best of luck this year on the field, in health, and just simply in life. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Shout out Beasters, man. You still be coming up with crazy plays.
There we go. So how you feeling?
I'm feeling great. I'm feeling great, man. I'm feeling great. That's another one. We're going to add that to the tally.
Jalen Daniels, our guest. We'll take a timeout, come back, continue rolling. More Zone next.
Visit Hollywood Casino at Kansas Speedway this summer for exciting live sports action. We've got the biggest screens around, and ESPN Bet is live in Kansas. Trust.
Holmes, Dylan Michaels heading up until 2 o'clock. An hour from now, we will hear from the Kansas City Chiefs Coordinator Day and McCole Hardman. Coming up later on this hour, we'll hear from the head coach of the Kansas Jayhawks, Lance Leipold, the number 22 team in the land, the Kansas Jayhawks, all three teams in the top 25, and week 0 getting underway this week in college football.
I'm not going to lie. The week
Don't
0
lie.
is
Don't do it.
It's
Don't do
silly, but also I'm so damn excited for college football to be back. Like, I was at Mizzou this past weekend. We're in Lawrence today. I need to make my way out to K-State, out there to Manhattan. I was actually in Manhattan not that long ago. But just the feeling of when you're back and all the students coming back, you get that feeling of excitement of college football, just the passion that reigns through. So week 0 or not, I don't care. Students are coming back, which means football is back.
There's a conference game on Saturday. The first game out of the gate Saturday morning at 11 o'clock on ESPN is Florida State, Georgia Tech. Like, it's an ACC game. There's a conference game on Saturday morning at 11 o'clock
Ireland.
here. Yes, exactly.
Oh,
That's
so
right.
I have to drink Guinness.
If you want to, that's fine. Whatever you want.
You drink the local.
Well, if it's heading to Ireland, don't drink whatever Gosler Chairless was drinking on that
Oh wow,
flight,
yeah,
so
good.
Don't do
well,
that.
that was apparently it was like a sleep thing. I won't be taking one of those.
Yeah, every time you take a sleeping medication or you take a sleeping pill to get more sleep, you usually wake up and urinate on people and are belligerent. That's typically what happens. It's the old Ambien excuse.
Who hasn't done that before?
Who hasn't taken an Ambien, fought with people, punched an old guy in the head, and peed on an old lady?
Who hasn't?
I mean, who amongst us? If you live in a glass house, okay, don't throw stones. Right? He who is without sin.
Yeah.
All right. Tell me you haven't done that. 913-912-4810 is the text line. But, week 0 in college football. And then next Thursday, KU will be getting their season underway against Lindenwood at Children's Mercy Park, which is pretty cool, playing a football game there, very intimate setting. And Mizzou will be taking on Murray State. K-State getting things underway a week from Saturday against Tennessee Martin for the first week of the season. There are no – it's one of those things, there's no preseason in college football. And so no offense to Lindenwood or Murray or Tennessee Martin.
The Racers.
But these are sort of supposed to be the preseason games, whereas Florida State and Georgia Tech, like your first game after fall camp, you're watching a conference game. Like it's one of those things where like you love those early season big time matchups like the Chick-fil-A kickoff and if your team's in it, it's like a big anticipation all off season to get to that big game. But you have no idea how crisp your football team's going to be the first game of the year, man, and one that actually matters in the standings. The Chiefs, the one that matters for them in the standings, starts September 5th. A couple of weeks from Thursday, a week from today, they will cut down, and we'll see who the 53-man roster is going to be. We'll find out, what that wide receiver room is going to look like. We'll find out what the cornerback room is going to look like, and we'll hear from the coordinators coming up an hour from now, and also McCole Hardman. Let's play a couple of these clips that I wanted to hear. Derwin James, the Los Angeles Chargers safety, was on the podcast, and I can't remember what the podcast is. I'll look up the name of it here in just a second. But Derwin James on a podcast and was asked about the toughest wide receiver or tight end to guard in the NFL.
What about tight end and receiver? Who's being toughest matchup?
Travis Kelce, the best tight end that I go against. It's always fun competing against him.
Yeah.
For sure. Nah, but he be playing basketball. Like, he make up his own. Like, he make up shit. Like, it don't even make sense. Like, it ain't even routes that he be running. So, it's like, he good at finding.
Right,
like,
finding the holes.
Finding the holes. And when he do got to make a play, he can make a play. So.
I love that it's he just be making stuff up. He's out there playing basketball. He's just making stuff up. That was from the Goat Farm show, from Goat Farm Sports, content exclusively from the athletes. So there you go. So Derwin James on that particular podcast talking about Travis Kelce.
Just making stuff up.
He's just out there playing basketball, just making stuff up, which, by the way, you see things on film and you get ready for – all right, this is a tendency, if they're in this formation, then this is what they're going to do. If they're in that formation, then this is what they'll do. only Travis Kelce may not actually do that.
Yeah.
Like, then he does something different. Now, it has to be within the confines and the construct of the play because you don't want to then run into where somebody else is going to be trying to fill that particular void. Now you got two guys there, or you brought your defender over to where Mahomes is trying to throw the football. You don't want to do that. But that's also understanding the offense and understanding where he can ad-lib. And as he said, the routes for the Chiefs are not lines on paper.
Yeah.
It's not line on a piece of paper. That's not the route you're running.
He's playing jazz out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Travis Kelce would be a great jazz player.
Little bass. Is he playing the bass for the Jazz?
He could be a drummer. He
Okay,
just really
fine.
you stay in the pocket, right? You're in the pocket, but it's a little unique out there. It's a moving pocket, if you will.
I can see him playing the horn, just sort of just like adding that pizzazz.
When he has the mustache, he's a trumpet player,
yeah,
guaranteed.
Sure. Yeah.
But I have immense respect for Derwin James because he always tries to go up against Kelce. He knows that, hey, this is the toughest matchup I'm going to face. I know this. I understand this. He's going to get the best of me. I'm going to try and be a little cocky out there, try and get in his head. Might not work. Quite frankly, it doesn't work. But
and I'm going to body slam him if I can.
Yeah, that was a little brutal. But like Derwin James is one of the best safeties for the past, 8 years or so? I mean, he's a damn good player. Right, it's like him and Kyle Hamilton are the only two guys who seemingly are up to the challenge, and Kelce still gets the best of them, which I think is so impressive. That we're talking about the best of the best at these particular positions, and Kelce still wins, and those guys are saying, yeah, Kelce is on a whole nother level.
Yeah, I mean, it's just we know what life is like after Tyreek Hill. We don't know what life is like after Travis Kelce because those guys have that relationship to where Travis runs the wrong route, is trying to decipher in his head what Patrick Mahomes was saying in his frog voice. You know, he's got that voice. And I was trying to think of, what was he saying? Then he calls the play. And so then I'm like, I look out of the corner of my eye and I see my guy. I'm just trying to help him out and look that way. And all of a sudden the football's already heading my way from behind the back. Just sort of that element that even when he runs the wrong route, somehow they still end up connecting on that particular play.
I was actually talking to Torrey Holt this morning about that, and we were laughing about...
As one does on Tuesday morning.
We were laughing about that particular play, and I mentioned to him that was actually not in the confines, that was not the play call, that Mahomes was basically almost mad at Travis for running the wrong route, and he goes, let that sink in. His guy's running the wrong route, and instead of just being pissed off and throwing it away or trying something to do, he goes, he has the ability, that just the collective awareness to say, all right, I don't know how I'm getting the football. This is the best way of doing it. So he was like, no quarterback can do that.
Yeah.
Under pressure, under duress, a wrong play call. And he goes, I have the awareness to stay calm, stay collected, and then make this play happen. That's never been done in a game before.
Yeah.
Insane.
Yeah, we see the behind-the-back pass, and the next time we see Patrick Mahomes will be against the Ravens. And we'll see what this team is going to look like at that point. But, I mean, it's go time right out of the gates, man. I cannot wait for that game to take place already because it's such a massive game. It means a lot, can mean a lot in the standings. But, I mean, they go through the AFC North the first couple of games. And, I talked a little bit about it yesterday that, I think the North divisions are the two toughest divisions in football, the NFC North and the AFC North. Any of the four teams – I know Pittsburgh is having quarterback issues, but it's still Mike Tomlin. So
Sure.
I would say that they're probably the fourth of the four. But the other three, I mean, if Cleveland's got a pretty good defense, we'll see when Nick Chubb comes back. Mm-hmm. But, we'll see if Deshaun Watson can remember how to play quarterback again. But certainly Baltimore and Cincinnati, I think the winner of that division, if it wouldn't surprise me if the winner of that division is 11-6. Or 10-7 because of sort of beating up on each other. You play the Browns twice, Bengals twice, Ravens if you're the Steelers, but you get the point. Whereas the Chiefs do have the benefit of Raiders, Chargers, and Broncos making some bad decisions over the years, whether that be personnel or coach or GM, and the Chiefs have made a lot of right decisions, so it helps them from that respect. And the NFC North is about as tough as I think the NFC North is the toughest division in football.
I wonder how much trying to catch the Chiefs, because we've heard about the Broncos trying to catch the Chiefs. That was what they brought Russell Wilson in to begin with, right?
Yeah.
The Chargers trying to catch and play up with the Chiefs, the Brandon Staley and his aggressive nature, right? The Raiders trying to catch the Chiefs, bringing in Derek Carr and Devontae Adams, and we saw how that played out, right? We talked for the longest time about New England and that division being so poor for so long when New England was good. And I wonder how much of that was, Buffalo and Miami and the Jets, they're trying to make moves that maybe they typically wouldn't, but we got to catch the Patriots. We got to be bold. We can't be average. We got to be bold. And those plans backfired, and they were horrendous. Well, you're kind of seeing in the AFC West, these three teams besides the Chiefs, they're trying to keep up and maintain and beat the Chiefs. Well, when those bold plans, those bold moves don't go their way, what happens? They backfire. And then now those three teams are, quite frankly, bad. They're atrocious.
The offseason of 2021, when the Chiefs traded Tyreek Hill.
Yes.
Or the offseason of 2022, because it was 2022 season and the 2023 season, they went back-to-back. So it's been 2 years. So March of 2022, the Chiefs trade Tyreek Hill. And the other three teams in the division trade for Russell Wilson, sign Khalil Mack, sign Randy Gregory, trade for Devontae Adams, sign the defensive end from Arizona that signed with the Raiders at that particular year.
Also Antonio Brown, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, they make all these moves to J.C. Jackson goes to the Chargers. They make all these different moves, and they spend so much money. J.C. Jackson isn't there. Randy Gregory's now been cut from his second team since the Broncos signed him. Devontae Adams is still there, but they've rotated different quarterbacks in there. And Russell Wilson is now in Pittsburgh, and they're dealing with the fallout from that. Again, I can't remember the player's name from the Cardinals defensive end that signed with the Raiders.
Chandler Jones.
Thank you, Chandler Jones.
Thank you.
Chandler Jones not there either. Like all of those moves you've got left, Khalil Mack and Devontae Adams. Out of the AFC West saying this is our chance to pounce, and Buffalo went and signed Von Miller.
Yeah,
they went and said they spent that money like, all right, this is our chance. The Chiefs are trading Tyreek Hill. The AFC is now wide open. All right,
Jason,
the window's closed for them.
To your point, Jason, Devontae Adams is hanging on by a thread too, so that's really not even.
And he talked about. I mean, on the.
I'm saying with the Raiders, he's hanging on by a thread.
Sure, he's been great, but he's upset with a lot of
and the wide receiver Netflix special, he said, make a change to Hayden O'Connell if I want to be here. Like he was wanting to be traded. If you don't put Aiden O'Connell in the game.
But it makes me laugh so much when you look back, and I had so many Broncos, Raiders, Chargers fans just in my mentions talking about how, all three of these teams got better. The Chiefs got worse. Yeah. And what happened? Back-to-back Super Bowl champions, as those three teams are now marred in irrelevancy right now. I mean, Chargers at least have a quarterback. They have Jim Harbaugh, but you kind of run into the same situation of.
They all three have a different coach now.
Yes,
from 2 years ago. They all three have a different coach than they had in 2022 when the Chiefs traded Tyreek Hill.
And only one has the same quarterback. I mean, it just goes to show you, one, the windows in the NFL are not as open as you think they're going to be. Those three teams brought in all those star players, and they thought, oh, my gosh, our window is now open. No, those iterations of those teams are already gone. It's about building your team, not just for 1 year, but for the long haul. It's why the Chiefs have drafted so well and put such an emphasis on depth and not just star power. Obviously they have the star power of Kelsey and Jones and Mahomes, but look at the secondary and how many 4th, 5th, 6th rounders, 7th rounders litter this roster that make impact plays game after game after game. I think that's the most underrated aspect of this Chiefs team so far. It's not just the superstars, it's the depth they have.
Well, and that's what's going to be interesting this year, because I think there's some positions where if they suffer some injuries, it could be rough to overcome. I mean, they had last year, Nick Bolton goes down, and you've still got Tranquil and Willie Gay.
Sure.
Brian Cook goes down, and Mike Edwards was playing really good football. I mean, Joe Tooney goes down, and a starting guard in the NFL comes off the bench and fills in for Joe Tooney. I don't know what Caliendo is going to look like. Like, they had those guys ready to go in those spots. The wide receiver group was pretty rough, but they had guys where they suffered injuries slide right in and perform at a pretty good level. And those guys are starters elsewhere. Allegretti's a starter. Willie Gay's a starter. Mike Edwards is a starter. Like, those guys are now playing in different places, and they were depth pieces for the Chiefs. And that's not depth anymore, So the Chiefs had to replace those particular spots and those guys. And so, there's some they do have a number of pieces, but, like, the interior of the offensive line for the Chiefs, like, I think is pretty crucial that they remain healthy, because I don't know that they have a NFL game day ready interior offensive line to step in and play if Creed goes down. Hunter Norzad is not stepping in and playing center at that point.
From what we have seen.
And if Trey Smith goes down or Joe Tooney, is Caliendo stepping in and playing the way that Nick Allegretti played, where it was like you didn't really feel an impact to that guy going down. Jawan Taylor goes down. Lucas Niang stepping in. Oh, that's massive. It's a big difference. People are complaining about Jawan Taylor. You don't want to see Lucas Niang in a game.
I will also point out, I think one of the underrated pieces is Wanye Morris, who's not only getting reps at tackle,
could be Wanye,
but also at guard.
So if Taylor goes down, it's probably Wanye.
The player I'm most concerned about would be Creed because of what we've seen from Hunter Norzed so far. Not a surprise, Hunter Norzed, where he was drafted.
And it might be Caliendo that they moved to center and just say,
hey,
he's been around for a few years.
We know you're a guard. Just put your head down and snap that thing.
He snapped the ball a couple times, so I mean, we'll let him go ahead and do that. Let's hear from real quick before we take a timeout. Let's hear from. Well, let's play the shorter clip then, Dylan. It's Bill Belichick talking about the Chiefs and three-peating and the difficulties that they'll be facing with that on the McAfee show.
We were just talking about the Kansas City Chiefs and obviously the Patrick Mahomes behind-the-back play that they're saying was not a called play. It was improvised. It was really the only way for me to get the ball to Travis, who ran the wrong route. We all have heard about the Travis routes and how that whole thing works. What are your thoughts on this Kansas City Chiefs team being able to sustain success when the entire world is not only kind of hoping you fail, but looking for you to fail? How do you continue to get better, and how do you continue to drive? And what do you think about this particular group with Andy Reid leading the way?
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting question, Pat. Let's see. Let's start on offense. It looked to me like they wanted to play Worthy with Mahomes, and Mahomes gave him a bunch of targets. Got him on that first flag route, and then an under route. They ran a reverse to him, things like that. So it looked like it was let's get some timing with the receivers, with Rice, with Worthy. Kelsey for a little while in there, and I think that was for the quarterback and receivers just to get work under, game conditions, not just practice. And so I think that was the purpose of it. Then Andy let the rest of the guys play throughout the game. But I thought offensively, it looks like it's just going to be an effort to get the young guys, timing with Pat so they're ready to go early against Baltimore. Obviously, they have the big opener there. I think the bigger issues are going to be on defense. They couldn't turn the ball over. Look, they played very, very well in the playoffs, so that's where it counts, and that's the most important thing. But overall, as a team, run defense, turnovers, I think that's an area that they're going to want to improve in. And I just think it's going to be tough this year. They're a good team. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that. I just think this third year, for it all to fall into place 3 years in a row is tough. I think if anybody can do it, it's probably Kansas City, but it won't be easy. It won't be easy. They'll have I'm not sure how tough the AFC West is going to be, but I think in the end, they're going to have some tough opponents, through the course of the season and playoffs. But, Andy will have them ready to go, and I think they'll maybe score more than they did last year. We'll see if they're, see if they can hold up defensively. I lost a couple good coverage players, obviously Snead. We'll see how that comes together.
I think they'll be better offensively. I think they'll take a step back defensively to a degree, and we'll see if that evens out enough for them to still be the best team in the AFC. They are still the betting favorites to win it. If any team's going to three-peat, certainly feels like the Chiefs are the ones that can do it as better of a chance as really anybody. We'll take a timeout, and certainly they have the best chance this year to three-peat.
Yes.
This specific year, they have the best chance. 31 other teams don't have nearly as good of a chance to three-peat this year as the Chiefs do. I am going to go on record with that.
Math.
We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We will math it up with the head coach of the Kansas Jayhawks, Lance Leipold, will be our guest. We'll talk with him coming up next here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Sterling Holmes, Dylan Michaels. We are hanging out in Lawrence. It's KU Media Day going on today. We will hear from the Chiefs. They've got coordinators and McCole Hardman that'll be talking at 1 o'clock. We talked with Jalen Daniels in the previous hour. We're going to be joined by the head coach of the Kansas Jayhawks, Lance Leipold, here in just a little bit. The Zone on the road, presented by Miva Medical, Kansas City's trusted endovascular specialties. So we appreciate them as we are in Lawrence today, heading up until 2. And then coming up tonight on Sports Radio 810, Bethany's going to be rocking the mic at 7 o'clock, and then Covell at 8 o'clock after Bethany's show is over. So there you go. But we got press conferences coming up later on in the show, and then we might be joined by Devin Neal, or tomorrow. We'll see what happens with that. We'll find out.
We'll see how fast he is.
Oh, good call.
Yeah, we'll see how fast he is.
Well, if it's anything like the college football 25 game, then he would not be stopped until he got here.
Yeah, that's unfair.
Nobody would be able to stop him.
You know what? You know what would have been good if they would have had it? Cody Schrader last year.
Yeah.
Think about Deuce Vaughn. Deuce Vaughn would have been. There you go, K-State fans. You say we would never talk about you. There you go.
But here's the thing. It would have been better for Cody Schrader this year, because Cody Schrader going into last year wouldn't have had the numbers that he would have been worthy of in the way that he ran.
Xavier worthy of. You got
exactly right. Whereas Devin Neal is one of the best running backs in the entire game.
Have you played the game yet?
I have not, but I've seen the talk online about how Devin Neal became this untackleable player. It's like, oh my God, why aren't more people playing with KU? Because they got Jalen Daniels at quarterback that's doing all these different things, and maybe the best running back in the game in Devin Neal that has a juke move and the most untackleable spin move in the game. And the online, it's people have really – the only reason I would know about it is because we're here in the area. If I lived in Seattle, I may not have caught wind of, Devin Neal is the best running back in the game, or one of the best running backs in the game.
You'd be keeping up to date with Big Ten, Oregon, probably.
Pac-12, Washington State, Oregon State.
Oh, just those two teams. Yeah, just those two teams. It's wild to say Big Ten Oregon member. Like, it just does not sit right with me.
Well, it's like I was looking through the win totals the other day, and and they at different books they have it. Some books have it by order of game you play. Mm-hmm. So, like, those that are playing week 0 are the first ones coming up as the win totals, which is an odd way to categorize them. Whereas other books have them in conference. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Conference.
Way more
instead of having to scroll. But it's interesting, like, if you scroll down and all the teams are listed with conference, it's like Pac-12, 2 teams, and then you just scroll right back. It's like the independents have all these different teams.
Guess the Pac-12 winner.
2 teams in the Pac-12, and I don't even know what their totals are this year.
I did rip the over, though. I wasn't kidding. On ESPN Bet.
Pac-12?
No, ESPN Bet, I went and ripped the over for KU football.
Well, that's 8.5, right?
Yeah, and I think that based on their schedule, I'm a huge fan. I'm gonna tell Lance that I put $5 on it, so I'm gonna need him to win for me, or else I'm gonna be hurting.
No, I think more than his own contract of 7 figures, your $5 is probably more of motivation for him to go out. It
might be
get
well, it
9
might be
wins.
the extra motivation, right? It might be just enough.
He's sitting with they're sitting 8-3.
Yeah.
Final game of the season, they need a 2-point conversion to win, and he thinks Sterling's got $5 on this game to hit the over on the win total.
It's like the longest yard play.
They're use our
come
best
out
play
with the longest yard play where Adam Sandler walks over and pretends like he has no idea what's going on,
Yeah.
And then he pretends he's going to call a timeout. But then it gets hiked. You've seen the longest yard, right?
Right.
Not the Burt Reynolds one.
The original one, yeah.
You haven't seen both?
Yeah, I don't think Adam Sandler is in the one that I've watched. I've never watched the new longest yard. I've never watched
New? It came out in, 2005?
It's newer. The newest.
Longest
The-
yard.
I've never watched the newest version.
It was
the
2005.
most recent version.
Yeah,
of
to
the Longest
2005.
Yard.
Sorry.
I've seen the older one.
We're getting close to a remake, though, because
Yes.
every 31 years they do a remake of
The
it.
longer yard.
Technically, they're both Burt Reynolds' longest yards as well.
Oh, you're right. He's in both. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Touche.
One is a supporting role, though, so Sterling technically is right that it is the Adam Sandler main character.
No, that's the Adam Sandler.
They're
in my
both
mind.
good. I don't know why we have to choose.
He's the Morgan
It's
Freeman
both.
to Tim Robbins and Shawshank, essentially.
Is that right?
Yeah, they
This is
they
a-
just missed the Oscar. So
Most people think of Morgan Freeman and Tim Robbins and their performance in Shawshank, and they typically put them up directly next to Burt Reynolds and Adam Sandler
Wait.
in The Longest Yard.
Tim Robbins or Tim Robinson?
No, Tim Robinson plays for the Spurs and Team USA.
and also hosts the
SNL guy?
I think you should leave show. Yeah, no, that's Tim Robbins' son. Tim
That's
Robbins.
Tim Robbins in Shawshank
Yeah, no, my
Redemption.
point. Oh, I thought you were saying Tim Robinson was in a Shawshank
Lelouch,
Redemption.
Bull
And
Durham.
now you understand my confusion. I thought
He was in Bull Durham as well.
my fault. I thought you were talking about the comedian. I'm like, he was totally not. Was he, like
was
9?
Breathing out of the wrong eyelid. You know, he's got $1 million arm and a 10-cent head. That Tim Robbins.
I thought you were saying Tim Robinson. And now you see my confusion.
Yeah, I'm
I
not
was
sure.
like, I don't.
Not sure why you would think of Tim Robinson in Shawshank.
That was my. Now you see why I was alarmed. I was like,
No, I
when
don't
was this
actually.
comedian?
I'm
Was he
still
like 9 when he's like a background character? Like he was in like.
I'm still not seeing why you were alarmed. Like nobody said anything about Tim Robinson.
Well, Tim Robinson had, when Dylan said it was very close.
Tim Robinson would be one of the greatest centers for the Spurs.
It's David.
By combining Tim Duncan and David Robinson. Oh, wait, they both are one of the greatest centers. But still,
Can you tell that we're waiting on Lance Leipold?
If you combined them, what would they look like if you combined Tim Duncan and David Robinson? Would it look like the comedian Tim Robinson? Like it's one of those things that backfired? That it actually went in the reverse? It went the other way? You thought you're combining these guys to get a great basketball player, but instead you get a comedian in Tim Robinson?
I'm befuddled now, Jason.
Yep. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll talk with Lance Leipold coming up next.
Then I'm telling you, you are missing out on the #1 rated dispensary in the state of Missouri, and also the #1 rated loyalty program in the state of Missouri.
as we are hanging out in Lawrence, KU Media Days, and coming up in about 9 days from today, it is 9 days from today, the KU football team, the number 22 team in the land, will be getting their season underway against Lindenwood. Joining us now, the head coach of the Kansas Jayhawks, Lance Leipold, joining us here in the zone. Lance, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well, and thanks for being here, guys. Really means a lot. It does to us. Exciting day, media day, getting towards the end of camp, but to have you here means a lot to our program.
No, it's we're happy to be here, and we appreciate you taking some time out to talk with us. And from a coach's perspective, are you itching to get the season started in 9 days, or would you like a few more weeks to still do some things in prep work and stuff?
Well, it depends on which angle we're talking on. Preparation you like, but you're kind of always holding your breath now, making sure you stay as healthy as possible to get into it. I think today was practice 18. So, we're getting there, and with an experienced group that we do have coming back, again, they've handled this really well, but of course we've got younger guys or newer guys that got to still get caught up in this. So we're getting there. I like it, but I'm probably more on the itching thing to get this thing kind of kicked off.
How much are you throwing at the guys during this fall camp than maybe your first one, looking back?
Oh, a lot more. Yeah. A lot more. We have, especially, even though it's been a little bit of transition, of course, with Jeff Grimes becoming the offensive coordinator, Darrell Egg-Paulso taking over as offensive line coach. But we have so much production and returning snaps on the offensive side that it's kind of allowed us to kind of keep going and growing these last few years with the amount of players returning. So that's kind of been it. On the other side of the ball, it's kind of been the same as, we lost about half the starters, so it's a little bit more maybe incremental there, but and probably have a chance for maybe some younger players to be in the two deep and rotational wise as we go through this early part of the year. But all in all, we continue to modify our fall camp. We try to condense the day best we can and get them out at a decent hour, get them in here probably earlier than maybe some, but I really like the way this camp's played out.
Lance Leipold is our guest. There is I mentioned number 22 in the land. So there's a lot of excitement and optimism around this program. And
I think we used to be 122 when we got here.
I mean, honestly, like that's and that's sort of what I'm wondering. From winning 2 games, a couple of years ago to now preseason top 25. Like, is there a different message from a coach's perspective that you've got to present the team as the praise and recognition is coming in before you get the season going on and they see their name up there? Is there a different message and a different way to sort of be around the team now?
Reminders, I think, is probably best. We've talked about, I've tried to, guys, balance this a little bit for them because this program has, went through some pretty tough times, a decade's plus worth, and there should be some pride in where we're at and feeling good about that. And that should help build confidence. But we can't let that eke into complacency. And there's that bottom of, okay, we got this, but you still got to go out and earn it. And people will forget about you pretty quickly if you don't play to your best. And this conference has shown that week in and week out, it's about matchups and opportunities and who's going to play well, and for us to do that. So the message has probably changed a little bit because, you've got to still take care of the things, but you got to do it with the same type of work ethic you're doing before. And also on that, there were times in our first season when we were 2-10, probably more like when we were 1-8, 1-7, that we talked about certain things and doing things a certain way. And I told them, and I stood for them on a Monday once and said, now guys, when we become a 9-win team, we're going to say the same thing about what that process is. So win or lose, it doesn't matter. You still got to take care of these things fundamentally. Don't beat yourself, all those things. So we've tried to stay consistent, and I think that was one of the things that, through a 6-win season and a 9-win season that the upperclassmen have embraced has been the consistency in which they've been coached and expectations.
Is this the path you envisioned when you took over a 0-win team? I mean, you look at all these analytics, and KU now top 10 and a lot of chances to make the college football playoff.
Let's worry about Lindenwood.
but what did you envision the path would be when you took over that team?
You know what? Again, I've tried to be stay in the moment type of thing, and all of a sudden it's like, wow, like probably the year 2, and we're rolling pretty good at 5-0, and then Jalen gets hurt when College game day's here. I mean, there's part of this is I kind of refer to this. Probably listeners have heard this before. I'll never forget when we played Duke that year, and that was game 3, I believe, and it was our first sellout. And Matt Gildersleeve, our head strength coach, right before kickoff, he kind of comes up to me and all that, and he goes, "Can you believe this? That we could go from where it was to that quick of even getting a sellout." And to see where this has kind of really gone has really kind of been special. But then in the same breath, guys, we left a couple games on the table last year that could have gone our way if we just kind of go. So, and we talk about it a lot. The difference in a lot of football games are 3 to 5 plays. Whether 3 to 5 could be early in the game,
could be in the second quarter,
boom.
first quarter,
yeah. And there's been some that our fans can point to right there of certain ones that if it goes a different direction, it could have been better. But I always remind them that they don't remember when we got the fumble against Oklahoma and they could have ran out the clock. And all those. So it is, and that's what's really neat. But I didn't come into this job. We did not come in as a job saying, year 1, 2, 3, whatever, and mainly because it was such an odd hiring time.
Yeah.
So you really, I always kind of joke with Travis Goff because he kind of said, well, the first year doesn't count. It's kind of a year 0. I go, but that's funny. They still talk about it being on our record.
It certainly counts.
So, I mean, it does. And people, it does count. And nobody outside of this building cares if you came in May or December to get the job. You still were kicking off in late August. So to look at where it's gone and where our players have and on the outside, not just on the field, but the commitment from the administration, our fan base, to do what we're doing facility-wise is really remarkable.
How difficult is it to get a buy-in from the players then? I mean, you come in and the situation was so unique there, but, we talked with Jalen Daniels a little bit earlier, and he talked about that, getting to know you, and it's one of the most honest coaches he's ever been around, the most honest coach he's ever been around. And, Coach Grimes comes in, and he says that, it's like a month before we start talking football. He's like, what about your family? What about you? What do you like? What are your interests? How difficult is it to get a buy-in and to try to show them that this vision can work? It's not just lip service. Like, if you guys do these things, we can be successful here at this program, even though that hasn't been there, anything tangible that you can hold on to.
It's case by case because obviously some didn't stick around, and I'm probably on the more experienced side in this realm of college football career-wise, I guess. And so that – it takes time, and today's young men, sometimes trust is hard, and for them to understand. We switched from afternoon practices to morning practices, and I look back after about a year and a half. That might have been one of the bigger things we were able to accomplish because we told them we were going to get in and do our work and try to make their day more manageable. And when they really saw that we were true to that, I think that helped us with buy-in. And when we told them if they didn't do things, they were going to be held accountable. And that means being to class on time and getting stuff turned in and other little things that are daily expectations. Because all we told them is, if you really want to be a pro, you got to act like a pro. You got to take care of your business, your daily tasks, all those things. Pro could be outside of football too. Really, because we got to learn responsibilities, and I think when they saw that, and it wasn't really negotiable, so to speak, but at the same time, like Jalen said, I tell them is that fortunately, whatever. I said life is not a highlight film. Okay, you don't get to pick and choose which ones you get to put on Twitter because you really like those plays, and my responsibility is to tell you what you need to hear to be the best version of yourself, not what you want to hear all the time. But at the same time, we asked our guys, find something to get better at today. And sometimes it's not football related. It might be just daily tasks. And I think our guys have done such a better job in the classroom. It has helped them gain personal confidence on the football field. that they can handle things and communicate better and do things, and I think those things have tied together. And you mentioned a guy like Jalen Daniels. I mean, he's an academic All-American, and that rarely gets talked about. And so when you're dealing with guys like that, our job has become a lot easier.
Lance Leipold is our guest. The media standpoint or the fan standpoint versus a coach may have a different view of an overall season. We'll look at wins, losses, et cetera. What is, for 2024, what's a successful season for Lance Leipold?
I usually say just daily and weekly improvement, because I said it last year, and I'll say it again this year. We can be a better football team than we were last year. We may not win as many games. And that's a credit to everyone else, to Chris Kleiman and Matt Campbell and everyone else. That's
It's weird because that's what I said last year about your team. Like, I think KU's improved, but I don't know that.
Right.
I mean, we'll see how many games they win, but I think they're a better team.
And injuries are going to be part of this game, and they usually are. And when they happen, you got to have it at spots where you have some depth and where you can kind of work through them. And so we don't know. But I like this football team. I really do. I like the way they've gone about it. I appreciate every guy that's been with us for the long haul, because, we talk about Jalen, you talk about Devin Neal. When you have two of your higher profile player guys be as good of young men and humble and great teammates and leaders, it makes the head coach's job a heck of a lot easier. They're not guys you're chasing around. You're trying to hold it in the best because it affects the locker room. And that's where we're truly blessed as a coaching staff, and the University of Kansas is to have guys like this that are doing what they're doing and are sticking around to play their 4 years.
Lance Leipold is our guest, and we've mentioned a couple times the number 22 team in the land preseason. As the program has grown and as the name is out there and your name as a head coach is out there, recruiting has been a little bit different too. Do you have a story or an example of when you sort of felt like it was a little bit different in the recruiting from your standpoint?
Yeah, I think there's times where you have more players actually follow you or reply faster.
Yeah.
But I would also say, too, there's probably been a time or two where, you might walk into a school and there's other peer schools and you're kind of one that's waiting your opportunity. And now I see times where, depending on the school, you may get a chance to see it a little bit. But, it's part of it. I do think, these last two seasons have definitely put us on the map a little bit more. And what we're hoping for is, we string another one together or whatever, and that pretty soon a young man from the time he's entered high school, he knows Jayhawk football is being a winning football program.
Yeah.
A program that's going to bowl games and all that. And right now, honestly, that we're still fighting that, especially locally, and there's still stuff that there's some old wounds for a lot of, and parents and others that influence or make statements. We're still but we're getting closer. And sometimes that's where I know, even from being at Buffalo, when people get frustrated, when programs that struggle have a new coaching staff and they don't really seem to recruit local. Well, sometimes what happens, you spend more time talking about your blemishes in the past, and you don't get really to talk much about the future.
Yeah.
Whereas when you go out further, you don't do that sometimes. So we're still chipping away at things here, and we want it to be national. And now with so many other things changing in the college football world, that and roster management and how you really acquire one, we think we can be solid players in it.
Lance Leipold is our guest. I know that joked about the college football playoff, and you're like, let's worry about Lindenwood. But as you sit back and sort of assess things, do you think do you have a team that can be in Dallas and playing for the Big 12 championship?
Wait. It's like one of those psych questions where they ask you the same question, just a different way.
Reworded.
Yeah,
let's worry about Lindenwood. As you're worrying about Lindenwood, Coach, understanding specifically Lindenwood is coming up in 9 days.
Did we move the Lindenwood game to Dallas?
It's actually
in December.
You moved it to the Legends over to Children's Mercy. You might have, but as you sit back as a coach, I mean, does it ever enter your mind then?
Well, you want it to be, and you want it, when you look at, the games we played really well and what we've done and how we think we can stack up. Yeah, if we can take care of business and that's why it's my job to stay in the moment and take it there. Why not? And if those things happen and if you don't go to Dallas, that doesn't mean you still can't even be considered with this expanded playoff.
Yeah.
So, but I've said this because this goes back to my Division III days, and we were very fortunate at the Division III level to play for 7 national championships in 8 years. But in August, so when you went to Salem, Virginia, there'd be 2 hotels, and they would rotate. They'd alternate by whatever way they did it. And we'd have people call our football office and ask which hotel we were staying at for the championship. And we had to win 4 playoff games, let alone win the conference to go. So I've learned to kind of bring it back in. But, yeah, if we can do things, why not us now? Why not? We've seen where it is, but as I mentioned, some other schools that locally and stuff, this is still going to be a highly competitive, conference. And another thing is, so we open up in conference with West Virginia. We did not play them last year. Then we play TCU. We didn't play them. Then we go to Arizona State. We didn't play them. Then we have Houston. We didn't play them. We played them 2 years ago. And then we still have Colorado and Baylor that we didn't play last year. So the conference is so different. And the other thing, I don't know if it's going to make a factor, but how does your team respond to traveling out west and coming back versus east and coming back? And what's the next week's game? And do they give you an 11 o'clock kickoff? Do you have these night kickoffs? And are your kids rolling in back into town at 3 in the morning? Those are the underlying things about how you handle it and where you're at. And, it's a new realm of college football that's going to make it exciting as well.
How have you adapted to this whole new landscape? I mean, it's been quick. Like, it's not been a year over year. It's been a quick transformation, obviously, with the NIL as well. How have you adapted to this?
Well, we went back and said, I got the job about May 1st. I think by June 1st is when NIL and the transfer portal started, so that changed. And then Bob Bowlesby was sitting in the office with me, and he'd made a courtesy visit. And when he got on the plane to leave, that's when Texas and Oklahoma announced they were leaving. And then, so then we brought in the other 4, and now we brought in 4 more. So it's been nothing but change really since we've arrived in Lawrence. And again, part of it is you control what you can and stay focused there. I kind of mentioned some of the time, even whether it be a Whitewater or whatever, is the cool thing about playoff football was a lot of times you'd play somebody different. And that's part of this. When you get prep, we get the film. We have expanded staffs that can help with breakdowns. You stay the course, and it's the new world we're living in, but it's exciting. And I think once a few things kind of level back out of what it's all going to be, I think college football will be in a great spot.
You ever played a football game in a soccer stadium before?
No, I have not.
Not yet.
I just said in my press conference that we just finished was, I really think our game in Phoenix last year, the bowl game, will help us. We did get a practice there. And, getting dressed in a baseball locker room versus the size of a football locker room, the walk, the hallway. Yeah. There's some of that I think will our guys have persevered through this project here on campus really well. We're just excited for the chance to play.
Lance Leipold, head coach of the Kansas Jayhawks, 2 wins to 6 wins to 9 wins, which means the math says you got to win 12 this year. So go ahead and count on a 12-win season for Lance, or it's a failure. I mean, or you've gone backwards.
Thanks. Yep.
If you go from 0 to 2 to 9 to then 9 or less, failure. Totally. I mean, then you're not moving forward anymore.
Hey, I ripped the over. I ripped the over. Okay. So that $5 should. I'm just saying. I'm going to be $5. It's going to hurt me.
So when you're getting to win number 9, think of Sterling.
Okay. Think of me.
All right.
Yeah.
Lance, thank you so much for stopping by. Best of luck this year, and it should be an absolute fun season ahead of us.
It will. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Once again, thanks for coming here to do it, and appreciate all you do for our program. Rock Chalk.
Absolutely. There's Lance Leipold, head coach of the Number 22 team in the land, the Kansas Jayhawks, getting ready for a game 9 days from now against Lindenwood there at Children's Mercy Park. And, of course, some other home games for them that will be played at Arrowhead Stadium would be a lot of fun. More Zone coming up next. All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you. Sterling Holmes, Dylan Michaels heading up until 2 o'clock, hanging out in Lawrence. The Zone on the Road presented by Miva Medical, Kansas City's trusted endovascular specialties. Let's head to Arrowhead, the practice facilities, One Arrowhead Drive, where the Chiefs are conducting their press conferences for today before practice. And they start, it's coordinator day, so starting with Dave Tobe, who is at the podium right now. Here is Dave Tobe.
No concern that he won't be ready. I mean, he actually, he's a tough guy. He got it shot up at halftime and then came in. So, I mean, it was pretty, came back in the game. So, if we had a real game right now, he would do the same thing. But, regular season game. But this game, we can bring in a guy which – we like this guy that we brought in from K-State and, get a good look at him,
If you had to, would you be comfortable with him in a game, the new guy?
I don't know. We'll see after this game. We're going to find out,
What did James do?
Excuse me?
What happened to James?
He landed on his shoulder I think it was the first punt. He went down, he got pushed from behind, landed right on his shoulder. So, the extent of injury, don't ask me that. I just know it's a shoulder injury.
Noah, after the game, kind of took us through him never having done
Unbelievable.
What was that like?
Unbelievable. See, Kelsey's our backup long snapper, and Kelsey, I can, during the regular season, I could throw him in there, and he's dynamite. Does a great job. But he was already out of the game, so now we're up to our third snapper, where you really don't work a guy. But he did a couple snaps on Saturdays, like during the mock games during the year last year, and he actually, they just threw him in there. Those guys took him in the back there, and just like he said, Jay and Bucker and Matt, those guys took him on the side. I'm still, coaching the game. Those guys had him on the back, in the back there, and got him ready to go. And he did a great job.
I'm sorry. You had to be happier with the return game than the previous week.
I was, yeah. We didn't get a lot of rep in that other game. There was a lot of touchbacks, so I was looking forward to. I'm glad we got some returns this week to see, what our stuff's going to look like. I was happy with the way they blocked and they finished. They did a nice job.
We've had some rumblings that the discussion point might be the 30 versus the 35. Do you think the 30-yard line is enough to encourage?
Well, I'm hoping, but I'm a little nervous just because the yard start now. I mean, it's right around the 28, 29, 30 yard line. So teams might say, hey, we don't want to risk it and hit the touchback. You guys know what's going to happen. When we first designed this thing, we had it designed for the 35. It was the competition committee that came in. The coaches' competition committee came in and said, hey, if we need to get out of a game, we just want to be able to kick a touchback without such a drastic penalty. To start at the 35, so that's why I moved it to the 30. But the unintended consequences on it is that are they going to just kick touchbacks? Is that going to be what we're going to get again? So, we're yet to find out. I doubt if they'll change it this year. I think Aponte said something the other day about it, and I don't think they're going to change it this year. So it's going to have to be an experiment. Until the end of the season, we'll see what it looks like, and we may move it back next year if everybody likes everything else about the kick return.
Dave, how do you recognize that there's still time left? How do you envision your kickoff return depth chart? I mean, if we played a game on Thursday night, would you envision putting back there?
I don't know. Could be McCole. Nico did a great job. I'll be pounding the table for that guy. I love him. Steele, he looks good back there. He hits it north and south. He'd be able to block. He's a guy that you could use a backup running back. Somewhere. Maybe Prince. You need bigger guys that can block too back there. It's not you just can't have two punt returners back there. I don't think.
Dave, I'm trying to take you back in the archives a little bit. You go back decades with Spags, obviously.
Yeah.
I think even El Paso, right?
Well, we went to school together at Springfield College in Massachusetts in 81 and 80 and 81. So he was a wide receiver and I was a tackle before I transferred to UTEP.
Okay. All right. So
that's how long I know Spags.
Even more than I knew.
Yeah.
Just during that year he was out of the game, were you in touch with him? And what impact? The bigger question really is, what impact do you think that had on him? Did you see?
I don't think it. I think it really helped. He went around. I don't know exactly all the teams, but he did. He went around and visited teams, and I remember him coming by. And I can't even remember where we were at the time, but he would always come by during the off season and watch, and try to get ideas, here and there. But he's, obviously he's a great coach. And he does, he's done everything in his career to make himself, where he's at now.
Did you get the sense it refreshed him? I mean,
there's no question.
Yeah.
There's no question.
Last one, PJ.
I know it's still the new kickoff still in its infancy, but just how do you see it, how it would translate back in the day, even before Hester, before like even Dante Hall, but just like, like even back in like the 70s?
I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, but I just hope that there's not just a bunch of touchbacks again. I really do. I hope people are trying to, scoot it in there and trying to maybe cause a touchback by hitting it in the target zone and then try to scoot one out of the back, and then us trying to field it and get it. And I just think it's going to be so much more exciting for the fans, rather than just sitting there and just watching touchbacks all day. I think that's the biggest thing, and all the different rules. I mean, obviously people will figure it out. It's not that complicated. After a while they'll be able to get it, be able to figure it out.
All right, thanks guys.
Thank you.
All right, there's Dave Tobe. We'll hear from Steve Spagnuolo here very quickly. But Travis Kelce, backup long snapper, says he's really good at doing that. I'm guessing he gets that from Jason. Maybe it just runs in the family of being able to snap the football. And then maybe the biggest thing to come out of that was him talking about Nico Remigio saying, quote, "I'll be pounding the table for that guy." So think about that as you're making your 53-man roster. Here's Steve Spagnuolo.
Got a flip card? So don't forget who I'm talking about here, right? All right, that was Fast Friday, normal Friday practice, which was pretty good. But we're ready to roll. I'll just open it up and take questions.
Coach, how annoying has it been that as you're amidst this cornerback 2 battle, you're having the guys out at different times? What does that mean if you're not even the main one?
Yeah, so more frustrating than annoying, but because it's really part of it. I made this point in a unit meeting the other day that, but I don't believe we couldn't have, because Jay Reed hasn't had any practice snaps, right? So I don't believe we've had let's call it our top 11, 12, or 13, whatever that is, right? I don't think we've had them on the field for one play. That's concerning, frustrating. Now I did say to him, those things are out of our control. They can't control guys getting hurt, and what we can control is our conditioning and being ready to play and all that. But with regards to your question about the corners, it's making it really difficult to decide which way to go. We got one more game. Some of these guys will play that are still fighting for jobs, but we can't say that there's a starting other corner right now, in all honesty.
Steve, I know y'all love to develop guys in the system.
Yeah.
And you have guys that are developing, are coming on, but again, those injuries. Is there any thought to trying to bring a vet in at some point?
Well, I think, if you would talk to Coach Reed or Brett, I think they'd tell you they're always looking. And they got their eyes on him, and typically Brett will come to me and say, "Hey, can you look at this guy and that guy?" So I'm sure that'll happen in these next couple of days. Yeah.
Does it also make it difficult at the bottom of the depth chart as well? Not just the number 2, but the number 5?
Yeah, deciding on how many to keep, and we've had a lot of reps. I was looking at the rep count of what those guys have been getting, and it's been against a pretty good offense because, Patrick's out there every day. But yet the game thing, you'd like to get a little bit more game experience to see what happens. The other thing, too, we got to be careful of, Andy and I were talking about this morning, some of the guys are going, like, for example, the Detroit did not play any of their starters last week, so it's like, okay, there were some good plays made. Would they have been, you guys know where I'm going. So we're kind of playing that whole thing. It's hard to figure out. I'm not sure what Chicago will do in this game, but we got to go based off of what we see in our gut feeling, and these guys just got to show the best they got. We'll see what happens.
What have you seen from Keith Taylor?
Yeah, he's made a lot of plays. Mike Frazier tracks production. We just track production on the linebackers and the DBs, and it's things like pass breakups and interceptions, forced fumbles, recoveries, and Keith's been right there production-wise. I think he's had a really good camp. He's right in the mix in the battle. He's got good size. And so he'll get out there and play in this game, and we'll see where it is at the end.
You seen more from him than you did, say, camp last year?
Yeah, now I can't remember. Did we have Keith last year, or did he come in? I can't remember, Adam, to be honest with you. I know he was here for the OTAs. Maybe came toward the end or whatever, but he's a big, long, because he's Washington. Didn't he come in? I remember talking to Trent about him. Came in at some point. And he was here all year with us on the practice squad, but it was hard to tell. But I think his, I agree. I think his skill set is showing up.
Steve, Josh said early in camp that you like to say growth comes while you're being uncomfortable.
Josh Williams?
Yeah. Did he quote you accurately?
See how it. No, actually, growth comes with change, and sometimes change is uncomfortable. But he was close. Yeah, he was close. Yeah.
You had the idea down.
Yeah. I think he got the gist of the point I was trying to make.
Is that something you adhered to for a long time?
Yeah, like I think when I put it up, sometimes we gotta change, right? And that's happening all the time in this league. And with change comes growth. I don't think there's any growth without changing, and that's what I was trying to convey to them. So some things that maybe we changed in the scheme, some things that they need to change in the way they do things to get better or to grow.
Did you look at it that way during that year off?
Yeah, pretty good point. I don't know what I changed. I'd have to go back and look, but yeah, I think when you're willing to change, I think that's when you're able to grow, in my opinion. Yeah.
Last two here. Go ahead.
In your safety room, I mean, you have established roles for Cook and Reed and Connor, but Hicks looks like it's going to be tough to keep off the field. How do you kind of reconcile almost that good problem potentially?
I think that's a good point. That's what I would say. It's a good problem to have four guys. I mean, every once in a while we might have four safeties on the field at the same time, but not too often, and the down and distance kind of dictates that. But I'm really really happy and excited about what maybe Jaden can do for us. And we know the other three guys are reliable. Now we just haven't had Justin Reed out there in so long. The chemistry thing, I remember, like, as we sat in here last year, I remember us talking about, when we kind of got it rolling and we were playing pretty good, a lot of it had to do with the chemistry of the guys. That doesn't just all of a sudden happen after this much time off. And so the concern is, Brian Cook wasn't here for a week, and Justin's been for a while, and Nick. Those are the chemistry guys. We'll have to do it in practice in the next 2 weeks or whatever to get ready for Baltimore.
Last three, we're going to go Todd, PJ, and then Matt.
You mentioned, maybe not having all these guys healthy during this. Do you have enough data to make all the choices you want to make at this point?
Yeah, we don't have much choice. And we'll have to go with a little bit of past performance, and guys with experience, all those other things. But, at some point you got to go what you got. I mean, the heads get Brett will get Andy, myself, the coaches, and try to come up with the best 25 or whatever that number is. Yeah.
PJ?
Along the same lines of cornerback, I mean, D-line is kind of having guys shuffling out too, and Felix and Vigo taking a lot of reps. Is there any concern there about the depth on the D-line?
I mean, there always is, right? Because you're an ankle sprain away from, not having enough guys. Those guys have gotten a lot of work. The one guy that hasn't gotten the work is Chris, right? Because he's been dealing with the shoulder injury. But there's a pretty good battle both inside and outside, I would say, at the D-line, at those, spots we're talking about, right? There's some obvious ones that are already kind of sealed, but we'll see how it plays out in this game.
Coach, the last group we haven't talked about, linebackers. You kept 6 to start last season. Is that could that still be a consideration when you got, Jacobs, I think, Moses?
Yeah. I don't think, we've never put a number on, it's definitely going to be this, or it's definitely going to be that. It's going to be let's say the number's 25 that we get on defense. It's going to be the top 25 players. I mean, I've been at places before where we've had 11 D linemen, and you were light at linebacker, or maybe light one safety or corner. But I don't think you want to let a good player go to waiver wires just because you thought you had to get too many at one position. So we'll see how the numbers end up.
All right. Matt, want to go ahead?
Sure.
Oh.
For those of you who do not know, every year the Pro Football Writers of America present the Paul Zimmerman Dr. Z Award to a Lifetime Achievement Award for an assistant coach. And there have been 25 of these named by the PFWA, Steve, and 5 of them have been Chiefs coaches. So you were in a pretty good company here. Emmett Thomas is on that list, Romeo Crennel, Howard Mudd, Gunther Cunningham, and you're the only one that has won it while you were with the Chiefs. So,
so I get to get this, right? You guys get to do it.
So you're in a distinct company here. Very proud to present you on behalf of the Pro Football Writers of America with the Paul Dr. Z Award.
Totally unexpected. When I remember I got the letter, and I said, well, this is good. I'll have a letter. I ought to maybe frame it or something, but I don't have to do that now. So. Listen, just two things. One, I thank the people in here. This doesn't happen unless somebody locally, says something. So thank you for that. And then I think I mentioned this before up at training camp. You don't get you don't get an individual award in a team sport unless you're around other good people. I'm not going to go through a whole list, but I will say this: if not for Andy Reid, there's no way this happens. A, he brought me into the league, and B, he brought me here to Kansas City. So I will say thank you to Andy, and I appreciate you guys too for just make sure I don't drop it and break it. But now I can tell. I had the thought of framing the letter. Now I don't have to do that. Thank you. Appreciate you guys.
All right, there's Steve Spagnuolo, yes, winning the award, Pro Football Writers of America. Matt Derrick presenting him that award as the representative of the Pro Football Writers of America. And let me tell you, I don't know that there will ever be a time, I can't imagine a time in the future where Chiefs fans or the organization will have it as good as they have it right now, with obviously Mahomes at quarterback, with Brett Veach as the GM, with Andy Reid as the head coach, and a guy like Steve Spagnuolo as your defensive coordinator.
Insane.
We'll look back and say, man, what a time that was, because Steve Spagnuolo is amazing at his job. We know that. One of the best defensive coordinators in the game, in consideration to be a Hall of Famer as only a coordinator, which I think certainly he could be that, a Hall of Famer just as a coordinator. But, also a great dude. Was it Trent McDuffie yesterday talking about playing for Steve Spagnuolo? Was like, well, I know the guy cares. Like, he cares. Yeah. And we saw that at the Chiefs softball charity with Justin Reed and Trey Smith. When they were hosting the charity softball, what was MVS's softball tournament or game last year, that was the day that B.J. Thompson had the seizure. That same night is when the softball game happened. And last year, Steve Spagnuolo, none of the coaches were at the softball game. But he was at this one. And he sat down, and we talked with him, and he said he made a point to go out there because he just wanted to see how the guys were doing. After that emotional event that took place, that, he knew the softball game was going on. So he's like, let me go out there and I can check on the guys, just see how they're doing. And, everybody can take their mind off stuff and just be out there and enjoying themselves and not think about what took place that day. Like, that's I don't know. That stood out to me from Steve Spagnuolo that, he could have been at home with his family. He could have been doing a lot of different things, but he's like, we had this thing happen today. Let me go check on. I'm going to go out there and support the guys because of what happened today.
Yeah.
Like, it's just an amazing group right now the Chiefs have. No wonder they're going for a three-peat.
Yeah. Couple that with Dave Mayer, Andy Heck, Daly, and the rest.
No doubt. Let's take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue rolling. We'll hear, I believe, at some point from Matt Nagy, and we'll do that as we continue rolling along here on Sports Radio 810 WHB in the Zone. Jason Anderson, Sterling Holmes, Dylan Michaels. We'll hear from Matt Nagy here soon, still not up at the podium. As we are hanging out in Lawrence, it's KU Media Day today as Zone on the Road presented by Miva Medical, Kansas City's trusted endovascular specialties. So we heard from Dave Tobe, we heard from Steve Spagnuolo, and we'll hear from Matt Nagy here pretty soon. By the way, you know the old saying when a coach tells a player, make it difficult on us to make this decision. Make it tough for us to make this decision. I don't think they meant what the second cornerback group is doing for Steve Spagnuolo and Dave Merritt and Brett Veach, making it difficult on them to make the decision. That's the exact opposite. It's making it difficult on them because they're like, yeah, nobody's stepping up. It's unfortunate. He said, they haven't had their top 11/13 players on the field for even one play in the preseason because, Justin Reed, and then Nick Bolton, and then you've got, Najee Johnson that's been out for a little bit of time and Jalen Watson. And he said, especially with those the injuries making it more difficult to figure out which way to go. But he certainly sounded, there was a level of frustration of like, yeah, we got to figure it out sometime. Like we have to make a decision at some point because we're 2 weeks from Thursday away from playing against the Baltimore Ravens. So there will be a second cornerback opposite McDuffie on the field.
Yeah,
we just don't know who it is right now, and it's not because everybody's making it tough on us to figure it out. From a good standpoint, it's just that nobody stepped up and secured that spot, and they haven't found somebody that they feel that they can trust to play that spot yet.
How much do you believe that versus how much of that do you think they know who the guy is and they're maybe using it as motivation or trying to keep the cards close to the chest?
I think they really believe it. Like I think if they felt like somebody was earning the job, I don't think they would have a problem with saying like, Joshua Williams has stepped into that role or Jalen Watson stepped into that role. And injuries are a part of it. Maybe if Najee Johnson hadn't been dealing with a couple of different hamstring injuries, and again, he's played the first game he's played in. In a while is Najee Johnson, last Thursday or last Saturday, and so then it's like, well, he comes out of that with a little bit of a hamstring soreness, so he misses a couple practices. Okay, well that makes sense. The guy hasn't, playing a real football game is different than, playing in practice and even in pads in St. Joe. But Jalen Watson recovering from the labrum surgery.
Kelvin Joseph.
Yeah, Kelvin Joseph.
They threw his name in there perpetually, it felt like early on. And then he had the injuries. Again, I think this is more almost an indictment on Joshua Williams because he had every sort of indication.
Totally.
And maybe that's where I'm wrong because I was really bullish on Joshua Williams.
Me too.
But and you look at even the PFF numbers last year and all this stuff, and he graded out very, very solidly. Again, maybe just a little disappointed. I'm not there every single day. I don't know what he's like in regards to the cornerback room and studying and all that stuff. But when he's on the field, he seems to make an impact. But, this to me says more about him not stepping up and getting that whilst everyone is injured than anything else.
Yep, absolutely. Because you've had other guys that are competing with him that have all battled injuries so far in camp. Like he hasn't. Like Najee Johnson's missed practice. Jalen Watson obviously has been missing practice. Kelvin Joseph missed practice with injuries. And it's Joshua Williams who's been healthy and out there. And yet still the coaches are going, yeah, we don't know. We don't know. I mean, it's a lot of he's had the opportunity as much as anybody has had the opportunity to grasp that job and be the number 2 cornerback. I don't feel like I don't have a huge concern that if Joshua Williams is on the field, then it's Orlando Scandrick. You know what I mean? I don't think it's Eli Apple. That's out on the field when it's Joshua Williams. He's just clearly not to the level, or Jalen Watts or whoever. He's not to the level of where the coaches want that position to be, and to somebody step up and be consistent in how they go about play to play. Certainly you want some guys to be consistent out on the field, but I don't look at it and go, there is a clear hole on the field at that cornerback spot, and that dude's going to get picked on time and time again, and they might get first and second down, they play awesome. It's 3rd down and 10, and all they're going to do is throw to that guy, and it's a first down, and everybody else is going to be let down by this spot on the field. I don't get that sense with Joshua Williams or Jalen Watson. I think they're fine players. they are just looking for somebody to be more than a fine player, looking for somebody to take that spot so we don't have to rotate.
Just seems like a lot of CB3s, and they're looking for a CB2. Again, you're fine with these guys.
Chris Rock was CB4.
But
go ahead.
But it's just
well
not
done,
ideal.
Jason. Well done.
Thank you.
Very well done.
Thank you, Dylan. Straight out of low cash.
Yeah.
So.
Well, Nico Remigio, right? That's pretty interesting.
Dude, Dave Tobe saying, I will be pounding the table for Nico Remigio to be on the team.
Yeah.
Kadarius Toney's like, well, what about me?
Hey, Dave, you want to pound the table for me?
Can I give you a table that you can? I'll buy the table for you.
I'll buy it mahogany even. It'll be nice mahogany.
It smells of great wood. It's awesome. I purchased this just for you. Is at Nebraska Furniture Mart. I bought it for you. It's right there. But
we can take this table out of Lawrence maybe.
Yeah, this is a nice.
Sturdy table.
This is
This could be the Dave Tobe pounding table.
We're in the quarterback room.
Pause.
We're in the. Wow, that really happened. That really took place.
Let's move on from that.
I can't believe you guys got your hands on the table.
Dylan, is this our second segment or third segment?
This would be our second.
Okay, let's take a timeout. We'll come back, and I think we're going to talk live with Devin Neal coming up next here in Lawrence. We'll take a quick timeout. We'll come back. More Zone next. Plans. We're going to table Devin Neal to tomorrow. We'll talk with him tomorrow, and looking forward to that. Even though it's KU Media Day today, but we'll have that conversation with KU running back Devin Neal, one of the best running backs in the country. But we heard from Steve Spagnuolo and we heard from Dave Tobe, and then coming up in the program, you'll hear some clips from McCole Hardman and also from Matt Nagy as getting ready for preseason game number 3. Should also point out the Chicago Bears, Matt Eberflus has said today that you won't see the starters for the Bears in the game on Thursday. So NFL Network billing the last couple of days as Mahomes versus Caleb Williams. I don't know who the Bears' backup quarterback is.
Is it Bagent? Is it Tyson Bagent still? Is he getting the nod?
You know what? I'm going to take your word for it because that's a name that I would not have been able to pull out of a hat. And you could have put a bunch of names on a board, and I don't know that I would have. It would Tyler Beatty.
Sorry, I pulled dog.
Yeah, Tyler Beatty is what I would go with. But yeah, whoever the backup quarterback is for the Bears.
Wow, I was actually correct. Yes, it is Tyson Bagent, and
nice
then
job.
after that it's Brett Rippon.
Yeah, so there you go. Bagent and Rippon versus Wentz and Oladokin, and probably not Book.
Huge.
I would say.
Huge.
But still full price tickets, so there you go. That's great. Dynamic pricing or not in that. But so Chiefs and Bears coming up on Thursday, but in the program at 2 o'clock, you'll hear from Nicole Hardman talking about the downed punt for a safety and what happened with that, and also Matt Nagy. But we heard from Dave Tobe. We heard from Steve Spagnuolo. We talked with Jalen Daniels earlier in the show as well. That was enjoyable. And also Lance Leipold. Talked with him as KU's getting ready for this season upcoming 9 days, because today's the 20th. That's right. Today's Tuesday the 20th. It's the 29th when they play Lindenwood to get things underway, because it's week 0 this week, Sterling. It's week 0. Okay?
Week
Saturday
0.
morning at 11 o'clock there's a conference game. There's an ACC conference game Saturday at 11 o'clock with Florida State and Georgia Tech. Okay, it is week 0, not week 1. Don't get it twisted.
Well, it's like March Madness, where you don't have it's the first round, but it's not really the first round.
The play-in.
Yeah, it's play-in.
There's a play-in week?
Yeah, it's play-in week.
So you got to win this week to be able to play the season.
That's it.
In
If
college
Georgia
football.
Tech loses, sorry, they're done.
So everybody that's not playing this week is already in the 2024 season.
That's what it is.
That's a great
I
point.
figured it out.
Didn't even think about that.
Smart man.
Yep. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. Wrap the show next. All right, that'll do it here for Sports Radio 810 in the Zone. We got the program coming up next. Appreciate Jalen Daniels joining us earlier in the show, and Lance Leipold. The KU Jayhawks get ready for Lindenwood coming up 9 days from today. Royals back in action tonight against the Angels. Again, 4.5 game lead. We talked a lot of Royals today, talked with Les Norman. 4.5 game lead on that playoff spot in the wild card. Only 2.5 games back. And looking at the standings, they are closer to the number 1 seed than they are to being out of the playoffs. The Kansas City Royals are right now. Think about that. They're closer to catching the Yankees and being the number 1 seed than they are to not even being in the playoffs. That's how great the last week or so has been for the Royals. But the program comes up next. Bethany Bowman tonight, Covell tonight as well. We appreciate KU having us out here for Media Days. We will get out of here. The program comes up next here on this Tuesday. Keep it locked right here on Sports Radio 810.